Well, we're taking a bow. It's the fourth day of the week. Thursday is here, my special day, and I'm eager to welcome you aboard. My name is Benjamin Akakwa. I do this together with Sweetie Abochi every weekday morning. This is the AM show. Welcome aboard. Now, coming up, I'll be serving you the news in a bit, and right after that, guess who joins us? Dr. Paul Grieb-Wachidankwa. He is government's spokesperson on governance and security. We also have, it's a tag team, Kofi Akpalu of the Liberal Party of Ghana, and Kwame Botsio, Secretary, Independent Committee of the CPP. All of them join us on the show for that bell. From there, we get into sports with Muftau Nabila Abdullahi, and then we get into our big stories. Number one on the chopping board, a fascinating interview with His Excellency Jeroen Verhoeven, the Ambassador of the Kingdom of the Netherlands to Ghana, with yours truly. You don't want to miss it because he talks about governance, he talks about security. I just mentioned Dr. Paul Grieb-Wachidankwa. He talks about our cocoa. He talks about our elections. Let's just say that you don't want to miss it. Again, we'll also bring you mixed reactions as government makes a U-turn, performs a pirouette on road tolls to reintroduce them in 2025. The question is, why now? Some of the people we spoke to yesterday suggested that you told us you'd bring in the e-levy and scrap the tolls. Now you still have the e-levy and you want to bring back the tolls. What is the rationale? What is the understanding behind it? We'll bring you all those pertinent details right here on the AM show. Of course, we'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts with us via social media and whichever other avenue you can use. If we activate the phone lines, be one of those to call. But stay with us. Up next, I serve you the news. Welcome to the news belt of the show. In our first story, 12 remand prisoners at the Nsawam medium security prison reclaimed their liberty on Wednesday when they were discharged by an ad hoc court in the penitentiary as part of the Justice for All program. One other inmate was acquitted and discharged, while 10 others were granted bail, with 2 others denied bail. Now, the prisoners, most of whom were locked up for various offenses, including murder and unnatural carnal knowledge, have been languishing in the Nsawam prison for years without trial. Addressing journalists after the hearing, Court of Appeal judge who sits with additional responsibility as a High Court judge, Justice Efia-Sewa Asare-Botwe, lauded the Justice for All program and urged investigators to work diligently to avoid that situation where pretrial inmates were unjustly left to languish in prison.
The Justice for All program, which started in 2007, has so far resulted in a significant reduction in prison overcrowding, from 51% prisoner overcrowded population as at December 2018 to 42.6% in May 2024. Wednesday's hearing at the Nsawam Medium Security Prison was in 2 ad hoc courts presided over by Justice Lydia Osei-Marfo and His Lordship Justice Ekufu. Both judges had a total of 24 applications split between them. Court of Appeal Judge Justice Efia-Sewa Asare-Botwe was the supervising judge. Ghana's prison population as at the end of May 2024 stood at 14,647 as against the authorized nationwide prison capacity of 10,265. The population is made up of 13,057 convicts with 1,590 pre-trial convicts.
So it's joy and jollity for about 22 inmates here at the Nsawam Medium Security Prison who have been granted bail and some discharged. In all, there were 24 cases and 22 of them have their liberties restored now. 12 of them have been discharged, 10 have been granted bail, 2 of them denied.
We have again today witnessed the impact of the Justice for All program that has brought many vulnerable remand inmates who, as a result of lack of legal representation and other factors, could have spent years in prison without trial. From the court proceedings today, I can only admonish investigators to be diligent and not leave the vulnerable remand inmates to languish in prison for months and in some cases for years. I also wish to emphasize that by law, only judges and magistrates are authorized to renew and sign warrants for inmates.
As part of efforts to decongest the prisons, stakeholders in the justice delivery system are aggressively pushing for the community service bill to be passed into law. Addressing the media at the Nsawam Medium Security Prison, Executive Director of Perfecter of Sentiment, a not-for-profit organization championing improved prison conditions, Jonathan Osei-Owusu expressed confidence in the progressive nature of the bill.
We are praying and calling on the minister. It is their baby. That the Minister of Interior and Attorney General should expedite action at cabinet level so that the bill can be put before Parliament. If that is done before October, we are hopeful that at least before Parliament rises or election gets so busy or campaign gets busy, they will be able to push this agenda through so that those who have been arrested for misdemeanors, minor offenses, can be given alternatives to incarceration, do some community service, sweep on the compound and etc., so that it will save government costs and it will bring us some relief.
Some discharged inmates, including a self-confessed Nigerian scammer, narrated the circumstances that landed him in prison to Joy News.
We have an issue fight, and so I took my property, took my laptop, then I left to the hotel where the accident happened.
What was the accident?
In night, around something 12 o'clock midnight, I went to Choice, London bar, to pick a prostitute there. So the next morning, I tried to wake her up. No way, she didn't wake up.
As part of efforts to improve the criminal justice system, the Judiciary Criminal Justice Committee, commissioned by the Chief Justice, has proposed some pragmatic interventions to improve jury trial and criminal trials in general. Latif Idris, Joy News, in Nsawam Medium Security Prisons.
Now, a member of the Northern Regional Peace Council, Alhaj Abdul Razak Sani, has called on journalists to help build the Ghana everyone is yearning for by always reporting accurately. He asserted that when journalists report with bias, it has the potential of clouding actions by duty bearers. Alhaj Sani, who said this at a workshop in Tamale organized by the Peace Council in partnership with the Catholic Relief Services for Elections Monitors, said accurate early warnings in conflict management was key in stopping conflicts from escalating.
30 monitors were drawn from violent-prone and border communities in the northern, northeast, Savannah, Upper West, and Upper East regions. The training was to equip them with reporting skills to report accurately and timely to prevent conflict. Speaking to the media, a member of the Northern Regional Peace Council, Alhaji Abdul Razak Sani, called on journalists and people in the north to be guarded in their use of social media.
Reporters being biased, then it's going to have a problem on the actions that are going to be taken. So it's important that they give reports that are credible, that are fair, that would meet the expectations of those who are going to take action, that will result in the changes that we want, in the desired results that we all yearn for. I did also caution them to make sure that their reports come very timely, because when they are timely, we're dealing with early warnings. So when the reports come timely, then appropriate actions can be taken. We're in for a context of two brothers, supposedly. And so we are equally worried that people will use the social media to foment trouble and to do other things that is not necessary. So in this context, I would want the youth to use the social media responsibly.
Project Manager of Povesa Project at CRS, Ms. Adeline Yeriyela, said the aim is to improve civilian security trust relationship in Ghana beyond election 2024.
This project is a Dutch government-funded project which CRS is currently implementing in partnership with the National Peace Council and the Kofi Annan Center. The main aim of this project is to improve civilian security trust relations in Ghana, of which we are doing in about 5 regions in Ghana. That's the Upper West, Upper East, Northeast, we have the Northern and Greater Accra region.
Now, Kobiba, an old community in the Efia constituency of the Western region, has endured relentless flooding for years. Whenever it rains, residents find themselves scrambling to safety, trying to salvage their belongings from the rising water. The visible cracks on many buildings in the area tell the story of the devastating impact floods have had on this community. In a bid to alleviate the long-standing flooding issue, Isaac Boamanyako, the MPP's parliamentary candidate for the Efia constituency, has teamed up with the Efia Municipal Assembly. Together, they have distilled the major drainage system in Kobiba as the primary cause of the recurrent flooding.
Of the Efia constituency lies Kobiba, an old community that has battled flooding for years. Each time the rain pours, fear and uncertainty grip the residents.
Yes, go to inside the house. We suffer a lot. Even for our battles and our toilet is almost choked.
The signs of devastation are clear. Most buildings here bear visible cracks, a stark reminder of the relentless impact of flooding.
When it rains, each and everyone can move. Each and one, everyone can move because it is sudden, it gets flooded. And this is our dream. If you get a storm drain, it will help.
In fact, since I was giving birth, this place has always been flooded. We have always have this problem of flood. Even when you check this building, there's a building out just behind us. It's full of water. Anytime it rains, you always have that problem of flood.
But now, there is a glimmer of hope. Isaac Boamanyako, the NPP parliamentary candidate for the Efia constituency, with the Efia Municipal Assembly, have taken action.
As part of our effort to improve on our sanitation in the Efia constituency, we decided to, on a weekly basis, do a sanitation exercise in every major community that faces sanitation challenges. As part of my visit across the length and breadth of the constituency, I realized that there are many areas which get flooded during the rainy season, and it has made it very difficult for our community people. And so, as part of the effort to desilt and decongest the major gutters or drains around the community, I partnered the municipal assembly and other stakeholders to undertake this cleanup exercise. So this is one of about 15 major exercises that will be conducted across the community in order to open up the drains and allow the water to flow over the community so that we don't experience the floods and the bad conditions that are facing.
After identifying.
Now, approximately 800,000 active staff members of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital now have access to 100% free medical care at the facility through the hospital's Employee Assistance Program. Speaking at the program's launch, the Chief Executive Officer of the hospital, Dr. Opoku-Ware-Ampoma, reiterated the management's commitment to ensuring the well-being of their staff. He also expressed hope the program would be extended to include retired staff members from the hospital. Semifa Kwesu has more in this report.
The assistance program aims to support the staff of Kolebu Teaching Hospital with free medical care, psychological and financial assistance and legal counseling. Under this program, staff can access the hospital's facility at no cost, including medical treatment. It is the first employee assistance program in a public hospital in the country. Chief Executive Officer Dr. Opoku-Ware-Ampoma stated that management is dedicated to the well-being of its staff.
Kolebu Teaching Hospital is the first government hospital that has introduced 100% staff Medicare. So our staff are now enjoying 100% Medicare, and that's a start. Now we are looking at the numbers because this comes at a certain cost, because not every expenditure will be covered by health insurance. So the hospital is actually paying to provide this service, and so we are looking at the sustainability. So once we have done that, and then at the moment, dependents of staff are enjoying 50% cover. All right, so we want to see how this goes, and if you're able to sustain it, then we are going to move to 100% cover for the dependents of staff, and then we also want to extend it to our retirees.
Blochem Ghana, the producers of Belakwa mineral water and Bell drinks, has partnered the hospital on this initiative. Marketing manager for Belakwa, Chris Akode, indicated that the company prioritized health interventions as part of their corporate social responsibility. They decided to support the rollout of the program.
So for us at Belakwa, having a mental well-being is very key to us. Mental well-being includes, the emotional side, the psychological side. If Ghanaians don't have that same mental ability, it affects how they behave, how they think. And for us at Belakwa, consumers are very dear to us, Ghanaians are very dear to us. So any activity that actually has to do with supporting the mental well-being of citizens is something that is very dear to us. And so coming to Kolebu and then hearing the CEO talk and other guests and everyone, really encourages us to do more.
The hospital management hopes to extend the program to the families of their staff members and retired staff.
And the number of staff in that previous story was 8,000, not 800,000. On to our next story. Now, the convener of the Global Crusade with Kumuyi, Dr. William F. Kumuyi, says the church is ready to put action to vision of the Christian faith that seeks to transform the social and economic status of the African continent. Dr. Kumuyi is in Ghana for the July edition of Global Crusade, aimed at fostering national cohesion, spiritual growth, and socio-economic development. There's more in this report.
Convener of the Global Crusade with Kumuyi receiving a warm welcome as he lands in the Ashanti regional capital, Kumasi, for a transformative gathering of Christians and other professionals. The Global Crusade is a monthly conference that aims at propagating the gospel and rekindling steadfastness in believers while supporting the society through social interventions.
This will go on record that there was nothing like it before.
Speaking at a media engagement ahead of the week-long activities, Dr. William F. Kumuyi is anticipating a transformational encounter through a collective effort.
I want to unite together, open our eyes, thank God for what the church has done, what Christian professionals have done, and look forward as we open our eyes to what we can do. Not only for the youth to change our world and to touch the economy and every area of profession. The Lord giving us vision and strategy and drive to make things better. Not to leave the world, our world, the way we found the world when we came in. So, in unity together, under the grace of God, we'll see how we have more vision. And we'll put action to our vision to make economy and everything better.
The interdenominational event, hinged on Christian principles, is aimed at promoting national cohesion and integration for peace and conflict resolution. As over 17 countries in Africa hit the polls to elect new crops of leaders, Dr. Kumuyi is optimistic of positive outcomes for the elections on the African continent.
When we talk of full salvation, we're not just talking about, I'm born again, I'm saved. What God wanted the world to be. He wants to make us be agents and carrier of the full salvation of the Lord. And as for the election and everything, God is in control of every nation. He'll give us his very best for our country here in Ghana.
Stakeholders of the Christian fraternity in the Ashanti region are in anticipation of a transformative crusade.
We have prayed and we are in anticipation. We know what God is using you and your team to do around the globe. And we believe that Kumasi being what it is, we've had many crusades here. But we believe that this will be one that is of a difference.
And we are praying that all the programs, God will reveal himself to us.
We are grateful to God that this day has come before Christ has come. And so therefore, we really are going to receive salvation in our land. The glory of God will be lifted up and definitely souls will be saved, not just in Kumasi, but across the globe.
God bless everyone.
The GCK Ghana, slated for July 25 to July 30 at the Kumasi Sports Stadium, is on the theme Full Salvation and Total Healing Through Christ. For Joy News, my name is Emmanuel Bright Kweku.
Stay with us. Up next, we serve you our business updates for today. Let's get right down to it. Increase your revenue base and diversify your revenue sources to support expenditure. That's the advice from senior partner at Deloitte, Yao Lati. According to him, these two measures are among other innovative ways government can consider in order to boost its revenue mobilization. According to government, about 1.5 million taxpayers out of 7.9 million honor their obligations. Speaking to Joy Business on how to improve revenue mobilization, Yao Lati stated that there had to be a deliberate effort to support the production yields of the country's cocoa industry.
Now that we've been able to secure debt restructuring program and we are heading toward the 55% of GDP, we should increase our revenue base. If you increase your revenue base, you are able to support your expenditure. But if you do not increase our revenue base and our expenditure is increasing, we are going to have a rising budget deficit and we are going to go back into the same problem. So one of the ways that government is using to increase our revenue base is to ensure that our tax laws are complied with or enforce the tax laws. But I think we should not only rely on taxes. Otherwise, it will be counterproductive. A lot of businesses are complaining about the numerous taxes, the amendment in taxes, enforcement of taxes on them. And so for me, we should diversify our revenue sources. And one of the ways of doing that is to increase the production of our primary commodity, which is if we support programs that will increase the production of cocoa, increasing the yield in cocoa sector, it will help us. The other thing is to increase production and export of gold. And the last is hydrocarbons, that's oil and gas. If we implement the right measures to increase the production of our primary commodities, we are going to earn more revenue as opposed to keeping taxing people. And then obviously, like I said, if businesses are overtaxed, it will be counterproductive. They will not be able to employ people and you will not get the revenue that we anticipate to get.
And that's it for business. It's also a wrap for the AM News this morning. But before the news review, here's our currency market for today. thank you for staying. Time now for our News Review, but you know it's always brought to you courtesy of Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, and they are offering you prostate screening for free if you're a man, fertility screening for free if you're a woman. Where you can locate them, here on the Crowd Spintex opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi, Kronumabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex, the Stakwadianaji State, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa, and the Siaman Zema. You can reach them on 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Now, joining me for the news review this morning, I have 3 guests, and they'll be joining me over the next 30 plus minutes. First off, we have Dr. Paul Grey Boachidankwa. He is government spokesperson on governance and security. Kofi Akpaloo is founder, leader, Liberal Party of Ghana. Kwame Botsio is secretary, independent committee of the CPP. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
All right. For the sake of maximizing time, I would ask that you be pretty succinct, brief in your thoughts, be as analytical as possible, but please, let me just put it this way, no unnecessary politics. Let's speak for Mother Ghana, and if you go a certain way, I will heckle you, just so you know. All right, so I'll take your 1-minute thoughts each right before we delve into the papers. Kofi Akpaloo, I'll start with you. Anything on your mind that you'd like to share with us this morning, like we usually do?
What is on my mind this morning is how young men out there are finding it very difficult to have access to capital to start their own businesses. That is something that is bothering me. And because I could say you have a lot of young men and women out there who have visions, but they don't know where to go and get support to kickstart, to turn their visions into fruition. Yeah, that's what is bothering me.
What do you think can be done about it? As someone aspiring to be president someday, what do you think? What would you do to better that situation?
Yeah, what I would have done is to form capital by mobilizing Ghanaians who have the money to come together to set up a fund to support young people with vision, to turn Ghana into a land of opportunities. I believe that if you are able to pull, let's say, 1 million Ghanaians together, and then you ask them this morning if they can invest 100 cedis each, you are definitely going to raise 100 million cedis this morning. What about if they can invest 500 cedis, it's 500 million cedis. So you can have that money to support any project that you want to embark upon. And I think capital formation has been a problem with us here. And because we always rely on foreign direct investors to bring in money to invest and take everything away. But it's something that we should look at, how we can collectively come together, put monies together to share risks and share returns. And then that's the way forward to create capital, to create wealth in every society.
All right, I'll come to Paul Grey.
Benjamin, a very good morning to you and a very good morning to your listeners and viewers. This morning I'll go very biblical.
You'll do what?
Go very biblical.
Feel free, your 1 minute is running though.
It's focusing 2 Timothy chapter 4 verse 7.
Right.
Which emphasizes that I have fought the good fight, I have
finished the race,
course, and I have kept the faith.
Right.
And so those are my reflections this morning, that in all of life, as we prepare to meet our Maker, and someday we would be able to say that indeed we have fought the good fight, we have kept the faith, and we have finished the course.
Okay. That's a pretty popular biblical verse that you just put out. Thank you for that. You have given us something to reflect on. Kwame, you have the final word on that.
I want to greet your listeners and also the leadership of this country. God strengthen them to do a good work. What I have to say, coincidentally, is a combination of what Mr. Akpaloo and Dr. Palgrave said. I would also start with 2 Kings 4:25, which says that in the days of Solomon, everybody had their own house and their own garden. So basically, the ambition of every nation is for everybody to be economically independent. And to tie that in with the mid-year budget review, it was a time of great unity in the House of Parliament. And I think that any party that succeeds will benefit the whole country. And what I believe the concentration should be on is what Mr. Apalu said on access to finance for the youth. And by the youth, I would want to limit it to the millennials and the Gen Z generation, because they are the ones going to take over one day. If we are able to empower them financially with access to interest-free loans, and also to unite them with other Gen Z and millennials across the sub-region and the continent, Africa will be shining in the next few years. That's what I have to say.
Thank you very much. I have to respond to this message earlier. I wouldn't go back, but Sally Nasiruddin says, good morning, Akakpo. I'm watching you live from Wale Wale, and you say, because of you, it makes me happy to watch Joy News more. I just had to acknowledge him. Thank you so much. I'm glad that I'm able to do something that makes you want to watch. But we now get into our newspapers and tackle what they have. Maybe if we have a little bit of time at the end, I'll bring through some of the other pertinent matters that have come up. But I'll start with you, Kwame. What papers do you have? What stories are you going to
I have the ABC News and Daybreak. And I would start with the ABC News.
Yeah, well, we must start with the alphabet.
I will start with the presentation by Dr. Amin Adam in Parliament yesterday.
Media budget.
The media budget. I read through, and I think he did a fairly good job in that light. And however, the only thing I would disagree with him on is the reintroduction of the road tolls. The road tolls were abolished to make way for the e-levy. So if you are going to reintroduce the road tolls, are you going to abolish the e-levy? This is I believe it is not the best thing to abolish something to replace it with another thing and then try and take it, bring it back. The road tolls abolishment has also helped with the traffic situation. Now you can move freely throughout the country without the traffic, which being in traffic in itself is something that affects the economy. So I think he should take another look at that. And to go to Daybreak, the police houses commissioned by His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. I believe the security services are people that we should always pay attention to. And I think I am happy about that. And it is a step in the right direction. But I believe that more should also be done. The salaries of the security services should be looked at. It should be looked at. They are furthering education. There should be special scholarship schemes for them, because
right.
people work around the clock and deserve the best.
Right. Those are interesting points you bring up. You know, anywhere, if you pay the people well, they will not be forced to do some of the other things that they may do. I see a lot of corruption in different parts of our country, and sometimes these public sector workers, you investigate their salaries, and you can almost, it is not right, but you can almost understand why they do some of the things they do. Because honestly, under this economy, where one tomato is what, 5 cedis or so, if you look at someone's salary, in fact, transportation alone has consumed that salary. What will that person use to feed? What will that person use to pay for utilities? If the person has a wife and children, or a husband and children, how will they? So the dynamics are stark. The road toll bit, indeed, especially the place where I get to feel it the most is heading to Tema or Spintex or somewhere, if I choose to use the motorway. It's much freer. You just cross and you are gone. It makes sense.
It does.
You can toll some roads, yes. But the Tema motorway, for example, now we say we are doing all the other work we are doing in the twilight of this administration. The road tolls we've collected for decades. What have we really used those road tolls for? Plus, you said we're bringing in the e-levy. So we're taking away the road tolls. Now you turn around. I agree with you. Makes no sense to me on that point. But it is what it is. And I keep saying that we are overly tolerant as a people with our leaders, regardless of where they are from, NDC, NPP. And that is why sometimes they run roughshod over us. But another matter for reflection, as I come to you, Kofi Akpalu, for your paper, you would notice that in terms of our public debt, by end of year 2023, it stood at 608.4 billion Ghana cedis. You would think, IMF program and all of that, so would rein in more. At the end of June 2024, it stood at 742 billion. We've added on another 133.6 billion in 6 months.
The addition, the add-on is a translation. Just a translation, you know, because you've converted it from dollar to cedi. So it's not that the government has added additional loans, but because of translation purposes, because it's dollar to cedi. So before, the dollar was, say, 12 cedis, and now it's 15 cedis or 16 cedis, thereabout. So when you...
It's not only the translation that accounts for this.
No, because when you look at the 700 billion...
I am saying it's not only the translation that
accounts but that's my understanding. You know, this is my understanding. Because you said earlier on that we should be nationalistic today, we shouldn't be political and whatever. I'm just being nationalistic. So I want to stay in that territory. Being more Ghanaian, I want to say that this one is...
I don't know whether you're being more Ghanaian, but you go ahead.
This one is because of the dollar and cedi relationship. So, because when you report it in cedis, definitely it will be higher. But when you go back to dollar, you see that it stays the same where it was.
Who is supposed to regulate that, though?
Which one?
The exchange rate.
Oh, that's the work of the ministry, the finance ministry, because...
It's the work of government.
It's the work of the ministry, finance ministry, plus the IMF. You see, since 1992, this IMF have been directing us as to what to do, that we should keep on devaluing our currency. And it's something that we should look at. It's something that is destroying this economy. And it's something that we should all be aware of.
Let me just make this correction, though. Our economy is not run by the IMF. You suggested at the start that our government and the IMF. The IMF, if you go to them, they'll give you guidelines. It is our program supported by the IMF. It is not an IMF program. It is our program. We say that, okay, now, like what happened with some promises that were made on ECG and the rest, they didn't force us to do that. We went ahead and said that we want to raise money through these ways. So don't get it twisted. The IMF doesn't run our economy.
They do.
We do.
The IMF does, in the sense that currently the Cocoa Board, they are looking for monies to pay off those road contractors on all those debts on their neck. They need approval from IMF before they can go ahead and borrow. You understand? So if IMF is not...
What borrowing are you talking about?
Yeah, they need 400
million. Is it the
million.
syndicated loan or...
No, not the syndicated loan. You see, because of some of the stuff that Cocoa Board has taken upon itself, like supporting our road networks and all those kind of things. So there has been a whole lot of debt on Cocoa Board, which is affecting their operations. So they want to take that burden off them. And because of that, they need IMF approval before they can raise.
The only reason, I don't want us to belay the point. The only reason that is coming up is because we have made commitments. We made those commitments. They didn't force us. It's not the IMF now going to say we are going to approve. It's because we said we will do this. And so they are merely holding us to it. So you're acting as though the IMF were doing it. They are not.
Don't exonerate them. They are part. They are part and parcel of our problem.
How well?
My brother, I'm being honest, Ghana here, maybe sometimes you're afraid to talk about all these things, but the truth of the matter is that IMF is also part of the problem that we are going through as a country. We shouldn't overlook side of that. They are one of the problems. Though MPP and NDC are the problems, but IMF is also part when it comes to our financial issues.
All right.
They will lend you money. They will not lend you money to build factories. Would they lend you money to build factories?
Would they what?
Would they lend you money to build factories? IMF. Would they give Ghana money? Oh, take this money, build factories, so that it can add value.
We're a member of the IMF, right? We're a member. We're a contributor. So when we're in dire straits, if we meet certain requirements, we'll get them. But did the IMF say, oh, Ghana, by force, come? Because, we want to supervise a program for you. That is what I am saying. I agree with you only to the extent that I feel sometimes the IMF is hypocritical.
Necessarily.
Under the NDC. There were times where you could see clearly some things are not going well. The IMF will be, mollycoddling, pussyfooting under this administration.
Yeah.
I was in the Netherlands, was it just about 2 years ago, at the Global Climate Adaptation. I'm sure you remember that famous interview. And members of the MPP were using that, Kristalina Georgieva said that, what is happening in Ghana, if I recall correctly, they are due to exogenous shocks and COVID-19 and the Russia-Ukraine war. I'm sorry, a lot of tosh. Because everybody had seen from 2017, 2018, 2019, when the writing was on the wall, you are over-borrowing, you are doing this, you are doing that, you will end up in a ditch. It wasn't about, how about the other countries that went through, say, right here in Africa, in West Africa, whose economies have grown much better than ours have, whose cost of living is far lower, whose exchange rate is far better, whose inflation is far lower, whose governments are not facing what we are facing. How about that? That is where I will agree with you. The hypocrisy sometimes, why they can't say the truth, regardless of whose ox is God. This journey you're on, then they will come and, yes, diplomacy and all of that. It doesn't help us because our leaders feed into that and they continue with that nonsense, so to speak. Do you have any reactions before we get back to him and his?
Well, yes. I mean, just to state that the road tolls and the e-levy comparison, in the media review, the minister stated that government has invested close to about 10 billion Ghana cedis in the road sector, and the road tolls, the new roads that are going to be tolled, is going to begin in 2025. And that was what the minister stated, and the future government of this country, under the leadership of Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, has stated very clearly that e-levy would be abolished. And so I'm very confident that when Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia assumes office as President of the Republic of Ghana from 2025, and the new roads are going to be tolled, e-levy will be a thing of the past. So that will be.
So the e-levy can only be abolished in 2025, but even in the mid-year budget review, somehow it can't be abolished, right?
No, you see, the e-levy was for a particular purpose, and it was not just for roads. It was for a lot more infrastructural work. And you recall when we had the e-levy conversation and reduced the amounts from 1.5% to 1% now as we charge it for a number of infrastructural work. And as a result of that,
because you are, as the French will say,
we have invested,
that's why they did that
about 10 billion Ghana cedis in the road sector, a number of road infrastructural works that are ongoing in this country at the moment, a number of them, plethora of them, that if you give me time, I can be able to list them.
We don't have that time. I'm sure the people who are listening will be able to give us feedback and tell us whether all these roads are actually under. Some of them.
Absolutely. I mean, a number of these roads, you are aware that they are under construction as we speak now. And so for me, I think that is very critical that we do the proper analysis. The road tolls would come in 2025 in the future government of this country under the leadership of His Excellency Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, who has stated very clearly that e-levy will be abolished. The number of taxes as well will be abolished during his tenure. And I think that is important that we put all those in context as we discuss these road sector impacts that we have made as a country.
I see. So we have Tete Zuta asking, but who asked you to go to the IMF? Only a failed country will be blaming the IMF. That's what Tete Zuta says. But speaking of these, though, I remember this tweet. It goes way back in time. The 16th of November, 2013, Gabi Otredako. According to the majority leader, increasing VAT rate by 2.5% is not a major policy issue for Ghana. So they sprung it on the people Friday. Then one Razia Khan comes to say, but Ghana needs to mobilize more revenue. No, pay attention. No. Ghana needs to mobilize more revenue. No. And Gabi Otredako responds, it's a government of, pardon my using the word, nincompoops, whose only prescription is to borrow and spend recklessly to borrow and pay debt. Watch the debt bomb. I guess the chickens have come home to roost. So my question to you, why do we still have the COVID-19 levy, as was posed on the day in Parliament? We are the only country in the world. I think COVID-19,
well, I don't know.
Madam Osayasari is saying that some people are still taking COVID-19 jabs. So we should.
I don't know if we are the only country in the world.
You are the only country in the world.
I don't know that.
You don't know
what data you are referring to.
I see.
But I mean, just before I come to the COVID-19, the Draboso Bwanza ongoing roads, the Winneba Kaswa roads, Karaga Town roads, Goshegu Town roads, Tolon Daboya roads, Nanton Karaga Goshegu Highway, Seshuyi also Town roads, Accra Kumasi Highway. All of these are roads that are ongoing.
Okay.
I mean,
for those of you who live in these areas, catchment areas, just shoot me messages.
Yes, a number of completed ones. That yes, so Esikem Menshia,
thank you. Just shoot me messages on the state of these roads. And let's have a discussion.
All of these roads are ongoing. I mean, so
COVID-19 quickly. So I go back
quickly.
to you.
You see, I think that for us as a government, one of our overarching goal is to see to it that whenever we have external shocks, we have enough more revenue to be able to take care of that. And I mean, in as much as COVID-19 is out of the woods globally, there are still people that are having COVID-19. People that didn't take the jobs, people that took the jobs. I had COVID-19 in 2021, was at Ridge Hospital for 30 days. I almost lost my life. And so when I go to buy things and I see that the COVID-19 tax is being taken, I'm like, okay, well, it may save a few more people in the future and contribute a lot more to any global issue that may happen in the near future. But
So let me ask you, right now, what are we using the COVID funds for? What are we using them for?
I can't speak to it right now on what we're using the funds for, but I'm aware that we're collating these funds for a lot more buffer stock in terms of any global issues that may happen in the future.
So you're saying we're keeping the money?
Well, that's why I said that.
Because one thing I have not known this administration for is to keep money to use for anything.
Oh, you can't say that.
You came and benefited from ESLA, the APFA, all those. This administration has never saved money for any. You can give me one example. Give me one example.
Even from the time when you stated that we were borrowing, we kept this economy running afloat on a single digit from 2017, 2018, 2019.
It was only a matter of time before the bubble would burst.
You cannot say that it was only a matter of time.
It was only a matter of time. If you know any economics, you know it's only a matter of time. It wouldn't immediately start.
Pick COVID-19, pick Russia's invasion of Ukraine, put that same situation into the NDC government from 2008 to 2016 and see whether they could have survived it. I mean, I think that, you should isolate the issues very well. Pick COVID-19, pick Russia's invasion of Ukraine, drop that same scenario into the NDC as well government from 2008
You've forgotten that they had Doomso. You've forgotten that there was Ebola. You've forgotten that they had oil price crises. You've forgotten that every administration in this Fourth Republic has had its own issue. It doesn't have to be a global pandemic.
Absolutely, but it is.
Russia, Ukraine, how has it impacted your economy? To the point where the Russians had to correct you in Ghana that stopped using their name. Do you remember?
No, please.
Do you remember?
No, you see.
The Russian embassy in Ghana had to come and tell you guys, stop using our name.
No.
We are not the cause of your woes.
No, Lizzie. We are talking as though Ghana is in isolation of global issues. Okay. Ghana is never.
This is a battle I will not win because I know how
Ghana is not in
your members have been conditioned. But let me ask you. Let me ask you.
You asked that we should be patriotic.
Let me just ask you.
And I'm being patriotic.
Do you know how much we've raised from COVID-19 so far?
I don't have the records available.
Okay, Kofi Akwalu, back to you. Let's do your paper.
Yeah,
we are done with Kwame Potio's papers. Let's do your paper.
I think there was something there that I didn't comment on. That is the.
It has to be brief because of time.
The toll, and then the COVID, the e-levy. I don't want it to be abolished.
You don't want what?
I don't want the e-levy to be abolished.
Okay.
Maybe we can use the money for something better, because people have come to accept it. So maybe either we reduce the rate.
No. Let me correct you. People nowhere in no part of the world do people like taxes.
Yes,
it's because of systems. People have been forced to accept it.
Yes, so
they've not come to like or accept it.
That's what I'm saying. That initially nobody wanted it, but now it has become part and parcel of us. So I don't want to see the government abolishing that tax. We should keep it and then use the money for something beneficial to the state. Maybe we can use that money to finance the young people who want to go into business. You can use that money and say, okay, this money, we are using it to build a fund. Any young person who wants to start a business, you can go here and pick some seed capital to kickstart your idea. I think it will help. And then also the reintroduction of the road levy. I think everybody, I've not seen anybody opposing it at the moment. But what I would suggest to them is that they should include in that new law that the rate should automatically be increased by, say, 1 cedi every beginning of every year. Automatically, it should go up, let's say, by 50 pesos or 1 cedi every year. You don't need we don't need to wait till, say, 5 years, 10 years before we review the rate and all those stuff. So every year, automatically, it should go up by, say, 50 pesos or 1 cedi. It will help us so that we will rake in good money to maintain our roads. I think.
Okay, so on that point, Kwame Wotu, I don't know whether you're interested. Just a quick one before he comes in. You do know that they have suggested some electronic way of going about the road tolls and all of that. We've torn down, if you use the Tema stretch and other stretches, we've torn down the facilities we had up there. Do you have any idea how this will be done?
Well, I've witnessed this in other countries, and even in Ghana, there's this card that you can get that when you pass through, the barriers go up.
Some institutions have them, some...
Yes. And even at a point, I wanted to purchase one, but I realized that special lane with the cards was not working. So there was no use getting it. And to add to that, I believe that it's better you get good roads than more roads. If you look at the Accra-Tema motorway, it is still one of the best roads that we have in Ghana, it was constructed by the CPP. However, I use it almost every day. I even used it yesterday, and it is a death trap if you look at the holes in it. You know, recently I did a quick trip to the UK, and we were watching TV, and they showed a remote village, and we saw one pothole, and we all screamed, a pothole in the UK. You see, I'd become so used to the mediocrity in this country and on our roads that I assumed it was normal to be swerving potholes and then jumping all over the place, until I hadn't been to the UK for a long time. Until I got there and I saw that we saw one pothole and all of us in the hall jumped.
And you jumped because it was a rarity. But don't even go far to go to our backyard, Rwanda, go to South Africa, go to Namibia, Botswana.
Exactly.
You will not see there what you see here.
Exactly. So whichever revenue is being raised for the roads should be used to fix the existing roads rather than have more roads. To what end? Our maintenance culture is zero. And any country that does not have a good maintenance culture is not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. We are still relying on facilities provided by the CPP up to date. Look at the quality of the motorway, even in its bad state. Look at its quality. With all this money that they are using on the roads, within 6 months, after a few rains, a lot of the new roads after rains...
And we all know why. Let's go back to Kwame Akpalu. But we all know why that happens. Because the contract, there's a kickback.
Exactly.
The contractor is not using the right amount. Of course, they'll cut down on quality. And roads that should last at least 15, 20, 30 years, after 2 years, they go bad.
Exactly.
And I caught you snickering a bit when I said, it's just because while you may find, like he did in the UK, once in a while, a few places here and there, in some of these countries that I've mentioned, a place like Mauritius, for example, you wouldn't see it on the scale where major road, town, middle of center of town, potholes everywhere. It's such a shame.
It is.
Kofi, over to you.
Yeah, you see, I was so happy.
Let's get into your paper. We can't.
No.
Let's go into your
just
paper.
a small one. I was so happy when you mentioned Rwanda, use Rwanda as an example, that they have good roads and whatever. You know, do you know how much they charge for a road toll?
I don't care. If we were getting the right things here, people would be willing to pay.
Yeah.
We are being charged. We are not getting the results. It makes no sense.
For your information, I want you to just Google and find out how much they charge.
When was the last time you were in Rwanda?
Yeah, even just today, it's $176.
When was the last time you were in Rwanda?
No, I said just today, it's $176 for large trucks to pass, and then $150 for small trucks.
Is that for a year or for what?
No, for just a passing. And then
I doubt that information.
Uganda is $10. Uganda is $10
if
for
a truck
100
is
kilometers.
paying almost $200 for one load, one offloading. I don't know. There must be some dynamics that will guarantee that. How much are they making? What profit are they making from what they are doing? So you can't. I seriously contest.
You just
information you are putting.
You see
out.
the information.
Let's not
every day.
Let's not
information are online these days.
Our viewers.
Because you see,
that's why I was asking. When was the last time?
Ghana here we have this problem as Ghanaians. No matter who is in government, we always try to condemn who is in government. But we as citizens, we don't want to contribute to make the work of government easy. You know, because you see, in the few minutes ago, my brother on my right, you know he's my brother, yeah? We are all from Volta region. So he is saying that this road to everything must be taken off, you know. At the same time, he's also looking for good roads. How do you get the good roads? When you compare UK, you mentioned the UK, yeah? Yes, UK, you know, they pay road tax. Are you aware of that?
I'm not aware. But
okay.
Sure.
Yeah, they pay road tax. Apart from roadworthy.
Yeah.
Apart from roadworthy, you pay road tax. But here, do we pay road tax?
No.
We don't pay road tax. Okay? So we need to look at why are we not able to maintain our roads the way it's supposed to be? Because we're not collecting enough.
I think you've completely deviated from the point.
Okay, maybe.
When I spoke about road tolls, I never said, for me, first of all,
Yeah.
I never understood why they took the road tolls off.
Okay.
Made no sense to me in the first place.
I agree with you.
My point was, you said because of the e-levy, you were taking away the road tolls, which is what yesterday when we went out there and spoke to people, they were reiterating. So why are you bringing it back? Don't misquote me.
Okay.
But the other point, I keep saying this, I don't think we're understanding it.
Okay.
It's not about paying tax. Like I said, in other jurisdictions, they even compel you. Some places, there's nobody manning the place. It's electronic. You get the OPA,
exactly.
You get the consequences. But in those places, if I fall today, someone was telling me a story only yesterday about someone who fell. You know, some of these iWatches nowadays and all of that, it sends, you can link it, it sends a message to the health services and all of that. Within a few minutes, the person fell. Nothing serious, but a message had been sent. The health services were there. Was it fire service or something, like paramedics? People had come on the spot. Because a message had been sent, and these people, that is where if you are charging me an arm and a leg, I know that if something is happening to me now, Ghana ha ufiye beshi. By the time a fire service be do na shit not because we should blame the fire service. I know of their logistical problems. How many fire tenders do they have? The hydrants where they will get water and all of that. How many are working? So sometimes we want to, it is the fundamental problem. So don't tell me about, it's not about wanting to pay. If we will get the returns of payment, people will want to pay. But I pay. My roads are still bad. It's nonsensical. Fuel prices are high. And you expect me to still want to pay. How does that make any sense? That's the point you seem not to be getting. Let's get into your paper, the Anchor newspaper. Let's go.
Yeah, this one is forcing me to go into the papers.
Well, unless you don't want to do the papers, you have to pay.
Because, okay, I think I saw something in this one. I think the government has, I don't know whether it's introduction or just change of name or something like that.
So which one is it that you...
I think it's the Finder. Oh, where is it?
Sometimes the stories play this kind of game with you where maybe they say it's on this page, but
okay, page 5.
All right.
That's the local news. He said 150,000 to 50 million available to SMEs under new fund. And I think it's a report from Daniel Nano, by Daniel Nano. Okay. It says they are setting up 8.2 billion Ghana cedis fund for small and medium enterprises growth and opportunity program. So the government just announced this, and we can have access to these monies. So I don't know how they are going to communicate very well for the young people who can go and access, and how they are going to access this fund without going through partisan way. Like if you are not MPP, you won't get it. Because this is laudable idea, because it's something that I want to see happening in Ghana, that people can easily get access to capital and start business so that young people can get jobs. But when it comes to disbursement, you go there and they want to see whether you are an MPP before you can get this.
Forget even NPP or NDC. Yeah. It's about people closest to power. You've seen that recent expose by Okudzeto Ablakwa. And while I'll not mention names, we have, trust me, if we mopped up all the millions of dollars in people who walk, the corridors of power in their homes this very minute, and we also looked at all the contracts, the shady ones that we have, Ghana would have no business. We would probably be giving money to the IMF.
Yeah.
The IMF wouldn't have to give money to us. I keep saying we are such a people that I don't get it. And we've become so polarized that if the MPP is doing something and we all know this is wrong, because some people feel, what kills me? MPP need to try NDC need. It means you can't think beyond your MPP and your NDC. So we end up in a ditch. You know what they say, when the blind lead the blind, they end up in a ditch. But one good old professor, my senior man who often watches the show and shares thoughts with me, he just shared a link with me. Prof, I know you don't like my mentioning your name, so good morning to you, but thanks for the data. Rwanda charges a fixed rate of $76 for small trucks and $152 for large trucks, while Uganda charges $10 per every 100 kilometers. Exactly. Because it didn't make sense to me that you pass once and you pay. There's no possibility. 100 kilometers is a long... Relax. Tanzania is charging more than $156 per truck, which some say is very expensive. But if you look at 100 kilometers... Is
it for 1 month or for 2 days or for 100
kilometers?
No, I'm talking about the 150... the $176.
And I'm saying that what I'm seeing here is 100 kilometers. I want to believe it applies across the board.
100 kilometers is for Uganda.
And I'm saying there's a comparative here.
Okay.
It cannot be that, obviously, if one is passing through once and paying that, and the other is doing 100 kilometers, they wouldn't be comparing them. Do you get it? It would be like comparing apples and oranges. So it can't possibly be that you pass once and pay almost $200. It's not possible. In Africa, it's not possible.
In Africa.
So let's even, because when you said it, I could tell. I mean, we go to some of these places. We have friends in some of these places. Even in Mauritius and others, they don't charge this. So let's not misinform.
No, and then when you travel from New York, when you travel from New York to...
Now we've headed to New York.
No, I'm just giving you said you can pay more than that. Then I'm asking you if you
I specified Africa. I specified Africa, unless you didn't hear me.
If you are traveling from New York to Atlanta, do you know how much you pay?
You're traveling from coast to coast, and you're asking me how much you pay? Like coast to coast? Like seriously, Kofi Akpalu? You're traveling from coast to coast, and you're going through all these points, and you're asking me how much you would have paid cumulatively. Is that even a question? Kofi Akpalu.
Okay, let our people also understand.
You're traveling from one coast to another coast in the United States.
Let's educate our people very well that we pay for good things, so that everybody should have it at the back of their mind. That when government is collecting something from you, then you can also demand something from the state that you should have good rules. But if you don't pay anything, how do you expect to get that good rules?
I don't know what your reflections are on that. No, so you're done with the new finder, or you're done with?
I'm not seeing anything interesting.
Okay. I pray the editor of the new finder newspaper doesn't hear you this morning.
Yes. I was surprised when you mentioned that Kigali, Gaborone, and Johannesburg, South Africa, and all those countries don't have potholes.
I never said. I quickly clarified that they don't have it to the extent that we do.
I'm glad
they have much better roads.
Yes, but in the midst of them having much better roads, they also have very bad roads. Very, very bad roads.
Even in the US, there are some roads that...
Very much. So I don't want... You said we should be patriotic. I don't want us to be here and paint Ghana as a place where there are excessive bad roads. There are very good roads, very, very good roads. And we can praise the government for that, successive governments for that.
Name 10 wonderful roads in Ghana.
Oh, I can name them. Right.
I can help him.
Oh, I can.
No. Let him name them.
I will name what we're even constructing.
And don't name any ones that have been done before.
Oh, but I can name.
Go ahead.
Oh, go to Dabiase, Esikem, Meshia. Go to Entry Echikrom, Debra Camp, and others. Go to Sunyani, Brekum, University. Why are you laughing? Go to
Why can't I laugh anymore?
You said I should name. I've even named more than 5. Go to Draboso. Buanze going roads, go to Winneba Kaswa Road, go to Karaga.
Winneba Kaswa Road.
Yes, go to Tolon Daboya.
Winneba Kaswa Road.
No, he said you are working on it. Nanton Karaga.
You are mentioning roads that are being worked on. You are not talking. I say mention.
Go to Accra Kumasi. Pokwase.
Mention
Pokwase. Just look.
Top class
look
roads.
At Pokwase. Look at the Pokwase.
Pokwase.
Yes. Pokwase.
This incomplete one.
But we at least we finished phase
Your
1.
best roads. Let me help you. The best roads you have. Interestingly, one of them is still the Tema motorway.
No,
hold for me. Hold for me. Let me make my point. Let me make my point.
Has done. It's a link.
Some of the best roads we have.
It's a link.
You still have the Tema motorway.
We still have.
And for the life of me, I cannot get why a concrete road is being patched with bitumen, asphalt, and the rest. It's one of the most. Though I'm no architect or engineer, my father was, and I've interacted with some of these people. Makes no sense. We've actually destroyed the road.
It's the work
then
of engineers.
You have the N1 and those linkages, which were done before you. Those are top-class roads. There are A-class roads. How many of them do we have?
Okay, if you take Anua Contact to Obuasi, I don't know whether you've driven on that road recently.
Which one?
Anua Contact to Obuasi.
I haven't, not in recent times.
Yeah, because before...
Kwame, I'll be coming to you shortly.
Yeah. Because before this government, you couldn't even ply that road. But when they assume power, they have done that road perfectly well. If you travel from Abrim, you know Abrim, in the eastern region, when you are going to Odan, there's a wonderful road that they've done there. And then from Boga to Boko. I don't know whether you've been there recently.
Not recently, but maybe about 2 years ago.
Yes. You see, there are a couple of roads that they've done, and they've done very, very well. If you go to Kumawu, if you go and see the roads that they've done there, and even from Kumawu to Sechere, that's Aguna, they have done a nice road to link them.
Let me ask you a quick question. Yeah. Are you contesting this year's election?
Yes, I am, because I'm being patriotic.
You sound more like an advocate for the MPP.
No, it's not. I'm not advocating. You see, Ghana, our problem with politics is that...
No, I'm not saying it's bad.
I'm
not saying it's bad.
The opponent.
Just saying...
I don't do that kind of politics. I will tell you what you have done, but I will also tell you what I will do. Because when I become president, there are more that I will do in this country to transform this country. Until then, I will not sit on radio, on TV, and just run down a government by saying they've not done anything. That kind of politics is not in my blood.
Nobody here. Kwame, I'm coming to you.
I say to
nobody here.
Witchcraft.
You've said enough. Let me bring in Kwame. Yeah. Nobody here, and it's not possible for any administration close to 8 years to have done nothing. That is almost nonsensical.
Yeah.
It's like saying, when pigs fly. But the point is, when you look at how much has been borrowed, how much we've taken in, what we've done, that is when you can make a proper assessment. But coming to you, some of these issues, you've not spoken in a while. What do you make of some of these discussions? I don't know which roads you ply in Ghana and how good they are. You can share with us.
The nature of my job means I travel all the time. I am always on the move. And from experience and from my checks, these roads have an expiry date. Strangely, sometimes within 6 months, it's destroyed. These roads that he mentioned, especially the Anua Nkwanta to Obuasi Road, it is almost impassable now. These roads are nicely made, very smooth. As I said, I travel a lot, but within no time at all, it's gone. I go to Kuforido a lot, Winneba.
Yeah, that's another place.
I go to so many of these places. You wake up one morning, the roads are so smooth. You go back in a few weeks and it's totally destroyed. We need sustainable roads. We do not need temporary roads. We cannot waste money on things that do not last. We owe it as a duty to successive generations to put down something that when it is their time, they don't have to reinvent the wheel or redo those things so that they can concentrate on other things. We keep on going back, building roads that get destroyed. We should just bite the bullet and then invest in the millennials and Gen Z, invest in roads that will last, build a strong foundation as this country was built on during the 50s and 60s, and everything else will work out. But what we are doing now, we are just wasting time in the name of winning elections. It's time we just took a step back and then did the right thing.
My good old prof sends me another message clarifying, because I've not delved into it too much, but he says, if 100 kilometers costs $10, and I'm sure we are using some equivalents here, in those countries it may be slightly different because our exchange rate is much higher to the dollar and to the pound. It means it's 10 kilometers per $1, right? Every 10 kilometers is $1.
Yeah.
That's like going through town for how long? It means the 20-kilometer Tema motorway should cost $2, which is what he's saying, which is about 30 cedis. And he's asking, will we pay? Can we pay? He puts it will and can. It's not just the will. It's also the can.
Yeah.
How many people earn the equivalent of 30 cedis a day in Ghana? So if you peg it at that, which other countries? Because it's also about the purchasing power parity and all of that. Yeah. Can Ghanaians even pay? How many will be able to pay it? That's one question. But something I'll throw in there, and this is from my production team. I don't want to mention whom, but I heard them, they talk to me, and they are saying that, Charlie, the Mile 7 roundabout area and the Apenkwa Junction area, Charlie, the places are bad. And the congestion, small stretch, short stretch, but the traffic. Someone was telling me the other day, a 5-minute stretch, you can spend hours.
It's very bad.
There.
Very bad.
So let's please communicate to your administration, Mile 7 roundabout, Apenkwa Junction, that Atomic is also there. But
we will do that.
People need help.
The regional balances of the roads that we have done, and I'll share it with you because Ghana is not just Accra. You know, when you go to Ahafo region, there's a road called Dabia Soba in the Ahafo region. That road has been asphalted. When you go to Ashanti region, almost 100-kilometer road that has been constructed by contractor, and that is Asankare, Krofa, Dransa road, and then Bratuom Krum, and then we have upgraded the Mampong road as well. When you go to, it's important. Yeah, giving you regional balance.
Is the Swami one done though?
When you go to
the Swami one done?
Oh, I can mention if you want.
Just asking,
I can focus.
The Swami one done?
I can focus in Ashanti region.
But what you just said, what you just said is very important.
Let him finish.
Let me finish, Mr. Paulo. Let me finish. When you go to Bono region, we have asphalted Doma Hinkro Road, town roads in Bono region. When you go to Bono East, we have upgraded Pitogin Road, Warasu Road. When you go to Central region, we've constructed the Badriase Adiesu Road. When you go, and these are a number of roads. When you go to
I'm hoping region, like Kwame
we have dualized.
You know our hope.
We have dualized
that these roads will stay this way even up to December.
When you go to Central region,
that's our hope and prayer.
I mean,
because we all know that
Greater Accra,
probably even before the elections there will be
Otano to
unfortunately
School Junction Road.
I'm familiar with these roads.
Otano to School Junction Road.
I use those roads all the time.
These roads, these are data. That is from the Ministry of Roads and Highways. We've stated the number of kilometers that we have constructed. It's so much. And if you see, when you stay in Accra and you don't look at Northeast region, we have asphalted overlay and Nerugu.
You forget that our reporters are all over the country and they send us some of your own people,
in Yendi,
some of your own
roads
people
that have been constructed.
Sometimes get caught on these roads.
When you go to Oti
we have
Hohoi Jasikan, Dodo Pepeso roads, 56.4 kilometer road. We have Nkonya, Wurapong, Kwame Krom road, all of that.
Savannah region. Shortly. Let's get into
construction of Binaji Fofosu road, asphalt overlay of Damango, All of that. Upper East region.
I see you. We can't confirm what you're saying.
But these are accurate data.
Accurate.
This is
the same way.
This is from the Ministry
what's the
of
name
Roads.
Of that thing?
This is from the Ministry of Roads and Highways. Roads that have been completed between January 2017
the performance tracker. The same way a lot of things were accurate there.
These are roads that have been constructed.
It's not just about
the
talking
government.
over people.
Oh no, but these are roads that have been constructed by the government of President Akufo-Addo.
The same way your performance tracker is riddled with mistakes.
You can
only take this with a grain of salt.
No, you can't take it with a grain of salt. We are very serious in this country.
But I thought this was the same paper you did. You find a news.
He just picked a few. He has two papers. I have only one.
Okay, so
we have
to go.
No, I'll just read the headlines. I mean, the new finder: tourism rakes in 1.8 billion Ghana cedis $1.8 billion between January to June 2024, compared to last year, which is $1.5 billion US. Dr. Amwa calls for patience amid economic proven. That's the Deputy Minister for Finance. The Balancing Act of Intelligence Agencies for Modern Democracies, Economies, Reverend Raphael Kane. And then he read the 8.2 billion SMEs. And I need to state emphatically that these SMEs that are coming, it's not for party cronies. It's for the Ghanaian people. It's going to be disbursed through the Development Bank, the Exim Bank, and the Ghana Enterprise Agencies. For every single SME. 80% of the SMEs contribute significantly to Ghana's economy. CRAPA is calling for TOR and CENTO to have deeper partnership. Parliamentary Select Committee on Communication visits MTN. ECG engages DENU customers on billing, meter acquisition. After Secretariat and Africa 24 sign MOU to boost Africa's economic migration. Just reading the headlines, just so Ghanaians can know. Ghana's tourism sector is a promising path with the level of investment that President Nana Addo Akufo-Addo has made in there. NPA sensitizes communities on CRM and safe use of LPGs. And I think that Bishop Dr. Mills is having an Anakazo conference.
Well, gentlemen, this is where we're going to have to sew it up. For those of you who send in birthday messages, please keep them sweet, short. Some of them are so long and this and that and that. You can state your message very briefly. Happy birthday, Reverend Samuel Ewuku Jechi. We celebrate the birth of an exceptional gift and spiritual leaders. It goes on to talk about him, and through tough and challenging times, you have diligently preached the word of Christ. May you continue to move from glory to glory. And it's from the leadership and members of ICGC, the Royal Temple, Awoshi, Accra. ICGC, Royal Temple, Awoshi, Accra. Leadership and members, they are wishing you well, Reverend Samuel Ewuku Jechi. It's also from our very own Derek. Then, happy birthday to Mr. Stephen Joseph Ni Ado, Esquire of Legal Alliance Chambers, Chado. Age gracefully. And it's from our very own Listerwell sending in that one. I'll give you 20 seconds each, final comments. I'll start with you, Kwame. 20 seconds.
Well, just two. The tourism sector, I'm very happy about it. And I think it started around the time, I believe there was a time when Isaac Osei was in charge of tourism. And he did a good job there. And since then, things have picked up. And secondly, regarding the 8.2 billion SMEs, I think rather than just opening it up to everybody, let's just focus on, as I said before, the millennials and the Gen Zs. They are the future of this country. Everybody else has had their share of the cake. Let's focus on that age bracket, and I believe that Ghana will be on the path to permanent prosperity.
All right. Paul Grave?
You know, I began with 2 Timothy 4:7, that I fought a good fight, I have finished the course, I have kept the faith. I'm very certain that at the end of President Nana Addo Akufo-Addo's tenure, these will be his words, that indeed he has fought a good fight, indeed he has finished the course, indeed he has kept the faith of developing this country.
You are a reverend, right?
I am. Indeed.
Okay. Kofi Akpaloo.
You doubt that President
Kofi Akpaloo.
Yeah.
Final words. No, I didn't say anything. No, but I just wanted confirmation that you were a reverend minister. You are a reverend minister, right?
I am, yes.
Okay.
I'm a reverend minister.
Kofi Akpaloo, 20 seconds.
Okay, I'm also ending it with Acts chapter 2, verse 17. It says, in the last days, God says, I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your young men will see visions. Your old men will dream dreams. Where I'm interested is your young men see visions. It means every young person out there has a vision. So we need to build this country such that the young people with their visions will get the necessary support to become fruitful.
All right. Thank you very much, Kofi Akpalu. So that is Kofi Akpalu of the LPG. Then there is Kwame Botsio of the CPP. And of course, we had Paul Grave-Wachidankwa, Dr. Paul Grave-Wachidankwa of the NPP. Before we veer into sports, Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic helping us bring you this segment. They are offering you, if you're a man, prostate screening for free. If you're a woman, fertility screening for free. Reach out to them at any of their branches here in Accra at Spintex, opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi, Kronoma, Abwe, here behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takrady Anaji State, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa, and Esiaman Zama. If you'd like to call them, the numbers are 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. We'll be back with sports up next Tuesday.
Time for sports on the AM show. My name is Haruna Mubarak. To our first story, and President of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo, says he keeps receiving plaudits from his peers for what he described as the successful hosting of the 2023 African Games. Ghana welcomed over 13,000 athletes and officials for the continental event back in March. The Games were predominantly hosted at the Botima Sports Complex and the University of Ghana, as Ghana clinched an impressive 69 medals. President Akufo-Addo shared his excitement when he met the LOC yesterday, the first meeting after the Games ended.
I think we should all pat each other on the back. I say that because these big undertakings, if you don't have confidence in the people who are going to work them, you will not put your neck out. And I have to confess, the very first time that you and your team came here to press the case for these games, I was very impressed by you. I was impressed by your commitment, your passion, and also the articulation. And clearly demonstrated that given the opportunity, you could do it. And it is on that basis that I also had the confidence to go forward at the AU, at Addis Ababa, and elsewhere to insist that we're going to do it and that we will do it well. Nothing is one of the things that is a highlight of my presidency is the way in which my fellow peers, my fellow presidents across the country have been congratulating me wherever I go on the success of the Africa Games. These are what, the 13th, is it? The 13th edition of the African Games, that they went very, very well. And the whole continent has felt enhanced and elevated by it. This very weekend, Musa Faki Mahamat, who's the president of the AU Commission, was talking about the Games. Yes, it's one of the things that he believes has happened recently that has done a lot to raise the image of the continent. So I have to thank all of you for your contribution and for your hard work and dedication to duty that has made it possible for these games to have come and gone. It's not easy. 13,000 people. And it's not enough for 13,000 people. To have to look after 13,000 people and manage them and see to it that they are comfortable, they're fed, they're bathed and nourished, and they're looked after. But you've done it.
Yep, so quite a busy day for the president yesterday as he also met reigning Ghana Premier League champions, FC Samatex. The club will be making their debut in the CAF Champions League and face Cameroonian side Victoria United on August 16 in the first round of the qualifiers to the group stages. Now, Ghana has not had a winner in the competition since 2004. President Akufo-Addo is urging Samatex to break their jinx and promised to financially support the club.
congratulate all of you, the chief and Mr. Manager, business developer, captain, and the players, all of you, on a great achievement. And you're about to go now into the Continental Tournament. It's been some time since we had a winner on the Continental Tournament, and perhaps we have the opportunity to be there. But we must all support you. And I think that the demand you're making for assistance from government on this continental journey is not misplaced. Yes, and between the Minister for Youth, myself, and the Finance Minister, we'll see what we can do to help. But help, we must help. Yeah, it's a national assignment that you're undertaking. You're waving the flag of Ghana. So we too have to do what we can to support you. Times are not the best as far as money is concerned. But I always like Dr. Buzia's statement, Kafu Didi. So we'll do our best to help.
Mr. President, we know you will have time to come and watch one of our matches. Even when you hear it on the television that you are playing some of our matches, we want you to wear this. Customized jersey of ours.
Thank you very much.
On behalf of the board, I want to present this to you. Thank you.
Yep, FC Samatex will hope to make the president proud, just as Ghana's men's relay team aim to do at the Olympic Games in Paris. Now, a member of the team, Joseph Paul Amwa, says the goal of the group is to secure a medal. The country has not won a medal in the 4x100 meters event since 1964. But there is renewed optimism about ending the long-standing drought.
What we actually, this is what we've wanted the whole time, where it's like we have get in a group where it's like we have about 5 or 6 people running really fast. And I know Prof. Andrew would actually testify to this, because it's like, I'll say it's a good problem to have for a coach, where it's like have so many, good athletes to pick from. We just, like he mentioned, we are number 7 in the world. What we actually talk about is not being complacent going into the races. We just want to take it race by race. Being 7th in the world means on paper you should be able to make the finals, because it's about 8 or 9 teams that go into the finals. So are we going to say, okay, we're 7th in the world, so we anyhow you run it, we're still going to make the finals? We can't say that. We have to still go in there and make sure that the baton moves around and be able to get to the finals. Taking it race by race, I think is going to be like, that would be the best thing to do, because you don't want to go in there already thinking about the finals. You got to take care of what's in front of you before you go to the next day to try to get on the podium. And you can't get on the podium if you don't make the finals. So our main focus is to be disciplined and then make it to the finals. And then when we get there, we start talking about medals. We are not satisfied with being 7th. We don't want to just go into the finals. We were in the finals in Tokyo.
Yeah.
We want to go to the finals and then get something out of it. We want to get on the podium. So being number 7 is something that we always, talk about, but we are not satisfied. We want to make sure we go in there and then try to come out with the ultimate. The ultimate is gold, but if we get silver or bronze, we're still going to be happy with it.
Away from the Olympic Games, Sports Minister Mustafa Yusuf has admitted to facing challenges with regards to payments necessary for completing the youth resource centers under construction. Out of the 10 planned projects, only the Koforidia Multipurpose Center has been commissioned. Some centers are close to completion, while work has stalled at other venues. According to the minister, his outfit remains committed to completing the facilities.
Challenges with some of them, and I must admit, with regards to payment to the contractors. But because the contractors have not handed over the project to us, you can't go and use it because we have not commissioned them. The challenges has to do with payment of their certificate, but we are working very hard to make sure that they get their payment and they can go back and complete them for us to put them to good use. Then the 4 that we had issues with the contractors, that's Azuma Nelson, Youth Resource Centers in Greater Accra here, Yendi in the northern region, Navrungu in the Upper East region, and Nyinanyini in the Ashanti region. Nyinanyini, recently we asked the contractor of the phase 2 to start. In fact, he has started, and he has to also abandon site because of payment. But the second phase have started, and he has to abandon again because of payment. But let me assure you, the media, that we are working very hard to get the payment to all the contractors to go back. Those with the challenges with the phase 2, we have resolved those challenges. And very soon, the second phase contractors will also start on the 3 left. And that is Navrungu, Yendi, and Greater Accra. So by way of updates on the Youth Resource Centers, that's what I have for you.
Well, here we are. You know what to expect every Thursday morning. It is our own AM exclusive. And today, we take you into a beautiful space. I'll be telling you more about it. But we're here with the ambassador to Ghana, representing Holland. He also represents Liberia and Sierra Leone, or he is ambassador to Liberia and Sierra Leone as well. But he is stationed in Ghana, and it's a pleasure today to host him on AM Exclusive. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Jeroen Verhul, His Excellency. He is ambassador of the Netherlands to Ghana. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Benjamin. It's a pleasure to be on your show.
It's good to have you here. So let's start on this note. If you look at the trajectory, the history, the 16th century, that was the first contact with the Dutch to Ghana, hitting the shores of what would then become the Gold Coast in 1598. Since that time, it's been centuries of interactions on and off, and then the recent, bilateral relations that we've had. If I asked you what historically the symbolism is of Dutch-Ghanaian relations, what would you say?
Well, it would be difficult to choose. I think I should choose between Geneva or schnapps or textiles. Both have a very strong historic tradition. So in the trade between Ghana and the Netherlands, both textiles and alcohol, schnapps, have played a very important role. And the reason why I mention them here is because still now they play an important role. So for example, schnapps is something that is used by Ghanaians to celebrate different occasions, whether it is a wedding, a funeral, whether you go to visit a chief and pay respect, you need to bring schnapps. So
a naming ceremony of a child.
Yep. All these traditional events are celebrated with schnapps. So that's an important product. Textiles is another one, which was used to trade, to barter trade in the past. But now still it's being used for fashion, especially ladies like the wax Hollandais, the Dutch wax, for making their dresses. And it's still being produced in Ghana by GTP, and they have different brands, of course Flisco, but also GTP and Woodin. Yeah. So textiles is another element, I would say, in our past trade relations.
And much later we'll talk about cocoa, of course, because that has been another pivotal part of our relations. But beyond these, what do you think Ghanaian Dutch or Dutch Ghanaian friendship, relationship over the centuries, what has it been hinged on? Yes, you talk about schnapps, you can talk about the wax prints, you can talk about everything else. But what do you think has maintained that nexus between our two countries?
Well, I think, first of all, the similarities between our countries. We're both coastal nations, so we're used to live with the sea and from the sea and through the sea. And especially for the Netherlands, that is an important element in the context of our country, because we are essentially a trading nation. So we have very few natural resources. So what we need to do in order to build up our economy is to trade, to import, to add value and export again. And that is something we also share with Ghana, because Ghana also in essence is a trading nation. And what we had as our fortune is that we had important industrial nations as our backyard. So for example, Germany was very close to us, and we could use the port of Rotterdam to import goods, to transform them and then export them to Germany. So having that place in a trading system is important for your economic development.
I see. Interesting dynamics in there. But before we even proceed on that front, and I was just sharing with you before we even came on air that I'd spent some time in both Amsterdam and Rotterdam, beautiful cities, and how the Dutch have capitalized on, you know, the sea, marine life and everything. Rotterdam, for example, has that beautiful bridge that, you know, can scale off and then be brought back. Interesting technology. But let me just wind back a bit. You've been in town since 2021?
Yeah, 3 years now.
3 years now. What has that experience been like, serving, you know, in Ghana?
Well, it has been a very interesting experience. I've served in a number of African countries. My first posting was also in West Africa, was in Cameroon, so I was posted in Yaoundé. But after that I've been mainly posted in Southern and Eastern Africa, in Uganda, in Tanzania, in Ethiopia and Zambia. So I've spent most of my career in Africa, and I really love working in African countries.
You do?
I do, yeah.
Yeah,
otherwise I wouldn't be here.
The climate, the people, the food, what is it?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of a number of things. The people, of course, first of all. To work with African people, and it's a generalization, of course, is very rewarding. It's very interesting to see how Africa is developing and to see how you can work together to solve problems. If I look at my own country and we need to solve problems there, yeah, these are very minute, small problems. Here you have really large-scale, life-threatening problems. So it's much more rewarding to work in an environment where you can help to solve these issues than to improve on a marginal thing like we can do in our context. So the people, the challenges, and what I would also say, nature, let's say the bond with nature that Africans have, but also the exposure to nature that you can have in Africa is so different from Europe that it is really exciting to live here.
I see. It reminds me again of something I noticed in the Netherlands. A lot of people riding bicycles, a lot of people swimming, you know, public places and all of that. That makes for interesting dynamics. But you spoke about challenges as well, and they are stark in our part of the world. For you, what are some of the foremost challenges you've noticed? Not necessarily to berate anybody, but challenges that you look at and think, oh wow, we used to be here, or these are challenges that together we can help resolve in Africa, in Ghana, a place like Ghana, or maybe Liberia or Sierra Leone. What are some of the challenges you've noticed?
Well, For example, let's start in the economic domain and talk about trade. And I think one of the things that Africa can learn from Europe is that we developed economically by trading with our neighbors. So, for example, the largest part of our export in the Netherlands goes to Germany, to the UK, to Belgium, to our direct neighbors. And what you see in African countries, African economies, is that a lot of the export goes to either the US, to Canada, to Europe, or to Asia. So why doesn't Africa trade within the continent? And I think that is one of the challenges that needs to be tackled. Because if you look at the development of the European Union, it started with 6 countries, including the Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg, Italy, France, and Germany. 6 countries started the European Union, and their objective was to create an internal market, so that what you would produce in the Netherlands could easily be sold in France and Italy and Germany. Mm. And it took us decades to get there, because the European Union was created in 1957, but the internal market was not resolved until, I would say, 2000. So it took us decades to get there. But having that objective is extremely important, and if you don't have that, then you will remain in an economic backlog.
I see. Which brings me back to the bit about trade. You mentioned trade. There are some stark trade imbalances, especially where African countries are concerned. Comparing Africa to the West, there's quite a bit of imbalance, and countries in the West have been encouraged to do better for Africa. I mean, if you take a look at even Dutch-Ghanaian trade, you would realize that we exported, even as of 2023, about $510 million worth of goods, largely cocoa products, cocoa butter, paste, and all of that, other residual products, which you're said to be the largest importer of in Europe. But if you look at what you exported to Ghana, it was about 3 times as much, $1.35 billion. Trade imbalances, how can they be dealt with?
Yeah, the biggest or the best solution is, of course, to strengthen your transformation capacity here in Ghana. Because if you look at the composition of trade, what you see is that what we export from the Netherlands mainly to Ghana is petroleum products. But these are petroleum products that have been refined and worked on in the Netherlands or in Europe. Because you extract petroleum or oil from the resources that Ghana has, but you don't transform it. So you need to build up capacity to transform. And cocoa is a good example, because in the past, when we started cocoa trading, Ghana was exporting mainly cocoa beans, and they were processed in the Netherlands or in other European countries. If you look at the cocoa industry now, a large part of the processing, the primary processing, is done in Africa, is done in Ivory Coast, is done in Ghana. So now Ghana is exporting cocoa paste, cocoa butter, and not the cocoa beans. So you already have made that step in adding value. But the bigger step is to make chocolate. And that is going to be...
There are very few doing that here in Ghana, but
do they have
it's
a
a
big
precious
market?
few.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are even exporting. Not too many of them are producing for the local market. A lot of them are export oriented, and which makes cocoa, or should I say chocolate, expensive even in Ghana.
True.
Makes no sense.
No, true. And if you look at chocolate, what sells in chocolate is a brand. It's Mars, or it's Nestle, or it's what is it?
Cadbury.
Calgary. Those are the brands that sell the chocolate. And with a brand, you can add a margin. And if you don't have a brand, name me one Ghanaian chocolate brand that is known in the West and that sells in the West.
Well, I think there's, is it Fair Afrique? There's something like that. There's Niche. I could mention a few that some are making some inroads.
Yeah, no, that's true.
In the West and other parts of the world, but they are few, and that's the problem.
Yeah. And they have to compete with large multinationals who have
economies
already a
of
big
scale
stake
on
in the
their
market,
hands.
and indeed already economies of scale. They have marketing, they are established brands, so it's difficult to compete. But yeah, if you want to compete, you need to carve out a niche, and niche is perhaps an interesting connotation with the company here, but you have to carve out a niche. And niche is an interesting example because what they are trying to do is not only to invest in Ghana, but they also invest in the US and in Europe. Because they know that chocolate needs to be produced close to the consumers. So they're not only investing in Ghana to build up capacity here, but to strengthen the forward and backward linkages with markets. And that is where Africa needs to invest in.
And throughout all of what you said, what was ringing in my head, even before you mentioned it, add value, add value. But we've discussed adding value for decades. It doesn't appear we've made that many inroads. If you, let me just switch it up. If you were in leadership in Ghana, let's pretend you're Ghanaian, and you were in charge of, let's say Cocoa Board or the Ghanaian cocoa bracket. What would you do now, especially as cocoa production is plummeting? What would you have done now?
Well, what I would have done is to review this practice of the syndicated loan, because that perpetuates a system where Ghana sells its cocoa on the future market and uses it as a collateral to get a loan. So that establishes already the price that you're going to pay to the farmer based on the current price, not on the spot market price. And I think that that is a system that needs to be reviewed, because what you see is that because of this collateralization, the contracts, the future contracts, are delivered. That means that a lot of the cocoa is exported, but exported as raw beans. And it's interesting to note, if you look at the capacity, the processing capacity in Ghana, there is about 500,000 tons processing capacity in Ghana for cocoa. But it's not being used. And it's not being used now because there is a shortage of supply of beans, but there's also this system which promotes exporting raw beans instead of processing them here. So it's just an example, but there are some traditional mechanisms, some traditions that are used and are important for the economy of Ghana, but which you need to review if you want to really add value and promote adding value in Ghana itself.
I see. Would you like to touch on them, or shall we just proceed from there?
We'll proceed from there, yeah.
All right. Let's talk now about the Dutch combination approach, and what is it in the first place, and how can Ghana and the Netherlands tap into it for a mutually beneficial system?
Yeah, mutual beneficial is the key word here. So the combination approach that the Netherlands is promoting aims at combining development instruments and trade instruments. So that is the combination that we put in place. And the idea is that especially economies that are developing, you cannot use your trade instruments to push relations with that economy. So you need a combination of development, some concessional products that you have, some concessional financial products that you have, in order to promote trade. So that is the basic idea that we are doing here. And it ties in very well with what Ghana is trying to achieve with the Ghana Beyond Aid program. So Ghana wants to wean off development assistance and to move towards investment and trade. So we're very much into synchronization with the Ghanaian agenda here.
This synchronization, of course, like you said, it's mutually beneficial, it ought to be symbiotic. What has it yielded so far?
Well, it has yielded so far that we are in horticulture, for example. And horticulture is a sector in agriculture which is very strong in the Dutch agricultural system. It's very strong in the Dutch export. What the symbiotic effect can be is that we are producing a lot of horticultural products in the Netherlands in glass greenhouses.
Mm.
And that means that we need to use energy to heat these greenhouses so that we can produce horticultural products, which is not very sustainable for the environment. Ghana has a lot of natural warmth and a lot of land. Ghana has much more land than the Netherlands has. So what we are looking at in this symbiotic relationship is the comparative advantages of the two countries. So what we are promoting here is very simple technology that we can use here in Ghana to improve production. So for example, what we have set up here in Adenta, maybe it's interesting for you to go and visit that site. It's in the Fra High School in Adenta. We've set up a demonstration garden where we are showing with what simple technology that we can offer. It's very simple irrigation technology, it is very simple farming practices, good agricultural practices. It is also very simple seeds and planting materials that can be used in order to get better yields. So with this combination of inputs, you can get yields that can be marketed, and then you can get a decent income. Because what we want to achieve with the combination approach is that we show that farming can be a very good business model. You don't need to hand out inputs, you don't need to hand out free seeds, you don't need to hand out loans or subsidies in order to promote farming. You can do farming as a business. And only then we believe farming will be done sustainably in a private sector way.
Mm. Now, you look at cocoa production, and we're focusing a lot on that because you are one of our biggest partners when it comes to cocoa exporting from Ghana and everything in between. And you are one of the largest consumers of chocolate as well, not just in Europe. Like I said earlier, our production has dropped. There was a time when we hit 800,000 plus million, and now it is about less than half of that. But there are different factors. I would say foremost among them, illegal mining, galamsey. Of course, there are the issues to do with pests and other related matters, but especially when it comes to galamsey. You were with us recently in the studio with Richard Razali, the EU ambassador to Ghana, and you spoke forcefully about this. What is your reading of illegal mining? And from where you sit, you've been here for 3 years, has Ghana made any inroads at all in the fight against galamsey?
Well, I would be lying if I would say that there were many inroads in the fight against illegal mining. And I deliberately don't use the word galamsey because I think that gives it a sort of an exotic air, an exotic image, as if something cultural, something African, whereas we should name a spade a spade. And what is happening is that this is small-scale illegal mining. And what you see is that the production of gold in Ghana has increased substantially, not in the formal sector, but mainly in the informal sector. So I would say that if you look at those factors, there is not a lot of success in combating illegal mining. And if I speak to organizations that are forcefully opposing illegal mining, they tell me that it is very, very difficult to get enforcement on, for example, areas where illegal mining is taking place. And even so, that if the police acts and they arrest somebody, that person is often out of prison very soon afterwards.
Let off the hook.
Yeah.
By the powers that be.
That's very interesting. So why is that? Why is Ghana not able to tackle illegal mining?
Do you think it's a matter of commitment? Do you think the commitment, that will to get it done is not there?
Well, I think it depends indeed on capacity. Is there the capacity to do it? Is there also the endurance to, after you've arrested somebody, to prosecute somebody and then put them in prison? I don't see it happening, and I wonder why.
Why do you think so? We're in Ghana, we're Ghanaians, we see, we know, we criticize. I'm a media person, you've probably heard me ranting on some of these, but from where you sit as, and I use this respectfully, an outsider, but an insider in the trading business, why do you think?
Well, probably there are parties that are interested in maintaining the situation as it is. And I don't have the knowledge and the expertise to indicate who those parties might be, but if there was a genuine political will and if there was an enforcement capacity, then Ghana would be able to solve this issue. But it's not happening.
And what is interesting is that in recent times we have also had in our law books laws that allow people even to perform certain mining activities in forest reserves. And some forest lands have been sold out, so to speak, captured by politically aligned people or politically exposed people. One infamous one was the Forestry Commission's former boss, who passed, and in his will, some parcels of land in the Achimota forest had been willed out. That raised it. It stoked the anger of many people, and in recent times we've seen same come to the fore. It just tells you that some things are simply not working. But moving on from there, as an embassy, as an ambassador, what other initiatives are you embarking on? Yes, you've told me about the model facility in Adenta, that school in Fafraha. What else are you doing to contribute to supporting Ghana's cocoa sector in a mutually beneficial way?
Yeah, the focus is on horticulture and on cocoa. And yeah, there are various levels and types of interventions. Of course, we work closely with government. So between our Ministry of Agriculture in the Netherlands and the Ministry of Agriculture here, we have recently formed an agricultural working group in which we agree on the agenda of collaboration. And for example, in a few weeks' time we'll have the first meeting of this agricultural working group, and we're going to establish a working program to see where we can expand collaboration. On cocoa, for example, one of the big problems in the cocoa sector is the swollen shoot disease, which is a virus. And what we are going to discuss is to see if we can find Dutch research institutions, Dutch expertise, Dutch knowledge that can help combat the viral disease of the swollen shoot. So these are some examples of collaboration that we can do through government-to-government collaboration. That's mainly on research and on the policy environment. In terms of practical support, I've mentioned the community garden, which is a demonstration project. So what we there do is to show how you can make money by using certain techniques. What we also work on is what we call the Orange Corner Acceleration Program. And with that, since 2019, we are supporting young entrepreneurs in Ghana to accelerate their business. So we have supported about 300 entrepreneurs so far. And we've just launched the 9th cohort starting this month. And what we try to do is to help them expand their business. So by training them, by showing them how they can formalize their business, how they can export, how they can market, how they can better organize their company, how they can better organize their books, etc. So that's a simple business training, but which enables them to expand their business. So that's the Orange Corners program. And for example, we're also working on the seed sector, because if you want to have good agriculture, you need proper seeds, and the Netherlands is one of the leaders in seed development. So what we're doing right now is working with the Ministry of Agriculture on a study on how we can help develop further the seed sector. But we already have a number of businesses from the Netherlands that are active in Ghana. And there's, for example, a company called East-West Seeds. They are based in the Netherlands, but they work in Asia and in Africa. And what they do is they work with extension workers and with demonstration farms to show farmers how they can use improved seed varieties to improve their production. Yeah, these are just a few examples of the different ways we are trying to improve collaboration both in the cocoa and in the horticultural sector.
Right, and I'm happy you kept mentioning seeds and other things, but you've also kept mentioning government and all of that. I'd like to find out one core institution here that helps agricultural extension officers, among others, is the CSIR. Have you had any collaborations with the CSIR?
I don't
the
think
Center
so.
for Scientific and Industrial Research.
No,
they have
I don't think so.
arms that, I don't know whether in your collaborations with government you have also roped in the CSIR.
I don't think so, but I can check with my colleagues, because I know about, let's say, the main lines of collaboration, but I haven't come across the CSIR yet.
Let's also look at the partnership from the standpoint of trade and how it yields foreign exchange. Like I said, I think for a number of years now, the increments in Ghana's trade to the Netherlands has gone up by 8+%. The Netherlands to Ghana has gone up by 9+ percentage points. So fair game, more or less. But there are challenges, not just from here, sometimes investments coming in. There are challenges. What are some of the bottlenecks that you see so far? And how can we address them from our end?
Yeah, I think the main issue for investment, if we talk about investment, is that there has to be a very stable and predictable environment. And that is both in terms of economic environment and in terms of, let's say, the investment climate, in the sense that if you have land or if you have a building, that you know that land and your building is secure. And yeah, I think that both in terms of land security and in terms of economic stability, there are issues that Ghana can improve on. If you look at the exchange rate, for example, it has been unstable for quite some time, and it has steadily deteriorated. So if you're a company that imports and has to pay in foreign exchange and you have to sell it on the local market, then you have to steadily increase your prices, which in an environment where people's incomes is not increasing makes it difficult to keep your market share. So those companies that have invested here are struggling at the moment to continue.
And we know some have left. Some have left the country, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Which would mean a reduction in jobs, which would also impact the multidimensional poverty and everything in between. But
fortunately, I know of no Dutch companies that have left so far. But what I know of is companies that have delayed their decision to invest in Ghana. And yeah, that is partly related to the economic situation, but also related to the elections that are forthcoming in December, that some companies want to wait to see what is happening with the elections, to see what government comes into power, what policy that government is going to pronounce. Because there is this tradition in Ghana that every 8 years there's a change in government, and with that change in government there's also a change in policy environment. And these 8 years have now lapsed, so companies looking at the past. It's no guarantee for the future, but they look at the past, say, well, let's wait and see what is happening in these elections before we make a decision to invest millions of euros in an African country.
Indeed, and of course they have to safeguard their interest, and you also want those businesses, while you want them to come in and invest, you don't want them to incur losses, because then it impacts your economy. Fair game. But how else are you encouraging Dutch businesses to come and invest in Ghana?
Well, if you encourage a company to come here and the company fails, then you have an ambassador who will campaign against investing in Ghana. So we only have benefit if we get companies here that succeed, because then you have ambassadors for investing in Ghana. And that is what we want to achieve, is that we have private sector entrepreneurs coming to Ghana that succeed and can act as ambassadors for others to come and invest as well. Then you have a self-strengthening process, a self-strengthening mechanism that will help Ghana and the Netherlands, because again, it's about mutual benefit.
Let's look now at good governance and security and how they impact everything else, because if there's no security, you can't do business. There'll be no trade. When you look at Ghana's governance barometer, there have been quite a number of challenges, but I would leave you to talk about what you see. You look at the latest Afrobarometer survey, for example, and it made for stark reading for me. Pretty interestingly, it was showing that countries that had gone the way of what no one wants, military rule, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, Guinea, seemed to be faring well in some categories. Now, even more shocking, the level of tolerance of military rule in these countries had shot up. I believe it is, I don't know whether it is Burkina Faso, Guinea or Mali, but the level of acceptance had risen by about 40 percentage points. In other words, the level of rejection had moved from 58% to 18%, which sends a very wrong signal. But why is that happening? Some would say democracy, the impact of democracy has plummeted per the survey. When you look at Ghana's picture in terms of governance, what do you see?
Well, I was at the launch of the Afrobarometer report, and it was indeed a very interesting presentation that was held. But you have to look very carefully at the questions that were asked to the public. So about military rule, for example, the question was, would you accept military rule if democratic leaders are not performing? So there is a sort of conditioning for the acceptance of military rule. And indeed, also in Ghana, you saw an increase in the people saying yes to that question. So that is worrying, I agree with you. But what also came out of the Afrobarometer is that overall in Africa and also in Ghana, people saw democracy still as the best model to pursue their interest, as the best model for being governed. So democracy is still very much favored, I would say, by Africans. But democracy is not a model that you can just rest assured that it will prevail. It is something you need to continuously uphold, you need to strengthen it, you need to work on it, you need to maintain it. Not only in Africa, also in Europe and also in the United States. Democracy is a mechanism that needs support, that needs to be maintained, that needs to be nurtured. Otherwise, you can easily fall prey to all kind of authoritarian tendencies. And it's not a unique trait in Africa. And there's a strong link between economic performance and preference for democratic systems or not. And that's also part of the Afrobarometer report that I gathered from their presentation, is that if economic performance goes down, then there's more criticism of the democratic process. So It's a very complicated system of interlinkages, but what we should gather from it is that democracy is still the favored option, and that we should work together in order to maintain and strengthen democracy as the best way to govern a country.
You can look at things like food security, and of course that also devolves into national security, and it is clear that food sufficiency is not the same as food security. There are different dynamics. In Ghana, for example, between the farm and the market, there are lots of gluts, farmers lose out and all of that. If you were to look at governance generally and security, I don't know whether you would give us on a scale of 1 to 10, but how do you feel during your period of being in Ghana, Ghana has fared on these dynamics, governance and security?
Well, security has been quite stable, and yeah, of course there are security threats, and so far Ghana has managed those security threats quite well. If you compare to Ghana's neighbors specifically, then Ghana has fared very well. But that is not to say that in the future Ghana will also maintain the same record. If people are unhappy about their economic prospects, then insecurity can certainly loom. Look at what's happening in Kenya, where young people are protesting against lack of economic opportunities, against what they perceive as a government that is not performing. And yeah, that creates a lot of insecurity. What risk does Ghana run to go in that same direction? If economic opportunities are not coming, with a youth bulge that Ghana is facing, with an increasingly educated youth, because you have free secondary high school education, you have more and more tertiary education, so the young people are getting more and more educated, whereas the number of jobs that they can get is not keeping pace with the number of people that is on the market. So that increasing gap will create tension. And I'm not saying that that will result into violence or insecurity, but it is certainly a risk.
I have seen some reports, indices measuring happiness across the world, and the levels of happiness in Ghana keep reducing. I mean, you look at it economically, even if you don't want to look at other bits. Salaries are not increasing. Inflation, food inflation, non-food inflation, skyrocketing, still in the 20s, dropping from about 54%. The exchange rate is maddening in this Fourth Republic. I've never seen the pound cross 20 cedis. It has now, at least not since 2000. And all the other factors in between. When you go out, you interact with ordinary Ghanaians, you go for programs like at the Afrobarometer. Do you feel, do you sense that level of unhappiness from the ordinary people you interact with?
It's funny that you talk about happiness, because if I compare the average Ghanaian with the average Dutchman, I would say that the Ghanaian is happier than the Dutch person. So happiness and economic welfare do correspond in a certain way, but not one-to-one. I think that the way of life, for example, family life, that Ghanaians entertain, the way that the community bonds together, is much stronger than we have, for example, in the Netherlands. And, for example, loneliness is a factor impacting on happiness. And that is a factor we are struggling with in Europe and the Netherlands particularly.
That is a general problem.
Yep.
It's a general malaise across Europe. Loneliness. I mean, even if you look at some parts of Asia now, you know, in Japan and others, inquiries are being made into why young people are not marrying. People are going solo more.
Yep.
Here, we've not completely lost that. But in terms of economic happiness.
True. Yeah, there you have a fair point. And that's what when I go out and I speak to people, that's what I hear people complaining about, that they are not able to buy their next meal, for example, and that salaries are not keeping up with prices. And that worries people, absolutely. And that is something that also worries me.
The Netherlands is a development partner for Ghana. We're at a crossroads. We're at the very doorstep of our 9th consecutive democratic election. I know you are concerned. You want to know how things will turn out. Dutch businesses are concerned. But how invested are you in free, fair, transparent elections come December the 7th?
Very much so. And I think that Ghana also is very much invested in that. We've been engaging with the Electoral Commission, we've been engaging with political parties. Today even we were engaging with the Manifesto Committee of the NPP. Last week we were engaging with the Manifesto Committee of the NDC. And that shows that the democratic process is very much alive in Ghana. Parties are working to develop their manifestos. The government, the Electoral Commission, is working to set the stage for the elections. And the flag bearers are out campaigning to campaign for support for their candidacy. So that democratic process is very strong and will yield results in December.
In terms of the chaos that we've seen in other parts of Africa, we must, Ghana has been touted as a beacon of democracy, a beacon of peace. From where you sit, you are certain that some of the despicable things we saw in the last election, 8 people died and all of that, will not be seen in 2024, right? How are you going to contribute to that?
By mainly strengthening Ghanaian institutions to deal with these issues. So, for example, we're working with the National Peace Council. We're working with civil society organizations to strengthen the mechanisms to resolve those conflicts in a peaceful manner. Because we don't want to see people die in this violence, this election-related violence. And one thing that needs to be ensured is that accountability takes place. And unfortunately, the incidents that you mentioned from the last election, so far, as I understand it, there's no accountability for those events. And I think that democracy could be strengthened by providing accountability for these events. And that would also help preventing them from occurring again.
You mentioned that you had engaged the manifesto committees of both the MPP and the NDC. What did you tell them?
Well, we didn't tell them anything. It's not our place to tell political parties.
Or what did you share with them?
Exactly.
What did they tell you?
So what we shared were some of the concerns we have with regard to focal sectors where we as an embassy are working in. So that is cocoa and horticulture. And what we did was to engage a consultant to talk to stakeholders in the sector and to find out what the concerns are of stakeholders, whether these are farmers or processors or traders or financing institutions or development partners, civil society. All those stakeholders were interviewed. What are your concerns? And we've synthesized these concerns and shared them with both manifesto committees, so that they, from their ideological and party political views, can come up with an answer, a response to those concerns. So that was basically what we did. We facilitate the identification of issues that should be resolved, and what we will be looking forward to is to see how the parties are going to answer to those issues in their manifestos.
All right. As I take your final words, I want to sneak in one last bit as well. There have been calls for a debate. We've seen that in the US. Now Joe Biden has stepped aside for Kamala Harris. I've engaged some...
You're already sure that Kamala Harris will make it?
I do not know, but I'll leave that to the Americans.
Yeah, exactly.
Some have said that it is the ruling party in Ghana that needs a debate the most because they are hemorrhaging in terms of the economy and other things. But from where you sit, what would be the relevance of a debate ahead of, and I mean a presidential debate, ahead of the 2024 elections? Then you can give me your final thoughts.
Okay. Well, in the past we have been working closely with IEA. So there is a Dutch organization called the Netherlands Institute for Multi-Party Democracy, and they worked closely together with IEA to promote political party organization in Ghana. So they worked with NDC, MPP, but also with other parties. And one of the things that they have been working on with IEA was organizing these presidential debates. And it's not because of that history that I would promote a presidential debate. It's more for the electorate in Ghana to make an informed choice, that they have the opportunity to hear both candidates for the presidency and ideally also their candidates for their constituency seat, that they can hear what the different candidates have to bring to bear to solve the issues that the electorate is struggling with, and then make a choice. You can go to campaign meetings, you can read the manifesto, but in a debate you often get a clearer understanding of where people stand and what choices they make. And the choices they make in the debate will also be the choices that they make as president or member of parliament. So for the electorate it's very important to know that, so that they can make an informed choice.
Well, in 2016, 2020, there were no such debates. In recent times, the IEA, which you mentioned, proposed that this happened, but unfortunately, it didn't appear they had informed the political parties. And so the NDC came out, for example, and said, well, we won't be participating in this because we are not even in the know. So I guess maybe some more work ought to be done on that front. Any final words?
Well, just to thank you for joining us at the Netherlands Embassy, because we're recording this interview at the Netherlands Embassy. We're very privileged to have this embassy here in Accra. It's a beautiful location in a beautiful city.
I agree.
And we're very privileged to be here. And I very much enjoy my time here in Ghana. I have been staying here for 3 years. Normally, an ambassador would stay for 4 years, but I've applied for an extension.
You have?
And it has been granted, so I'll be staying for another 2 years in Ghana.
Wow.
And I very much look forward to working with whichever party is going to be in power after the elections in December.
I have to sneak in this. My producer is not going to be happy. What's your favorite Ghanaian food?
That is kelewele.
Kelewele?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did I pronounce it wrong?
Kelewele.
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 Kelewele. Yeah,
Okay.
that's my favorite, the fried plantains.
So next time I need a favor from the Dutch ambassador to Ghana, guess what I'm going to be? I'm going to come bearing gifts of kelewele. Well seasoned. Do you like it well seasoned?
Well seasoned, absolutely. Yeah, nice and spicy.
Okay. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise.
Thank you so
Benjamin.
much
Yeah.
having us here. And like he's mentioned, we've been here at the Dutch Embassy, and I've been engaging His Excellency, the Dutch Ambassador to not just Ghana, Liberia and Sierra Leone as well. And Jeroen Verhul is his name, and he joined us for a conversation. I hope I got that right.
Absolutely, Benjamin.
All right. This has been another installment of AM Exclusive with me, Benjamin Akakpo. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day. What is coming down, you'll be finding out shortly as I introduce my guest to you from the ICGC. It's all about 40 days of power and, of course, Greater Works, that conference in 2024. Joining the conversation, Reverend Albert Okran here, Senior Pastor ICGC, the New Wine Temple in East Legon. We also have Reverend Kojo Amuasare, Senior Pastor ICGC, Zoe Temple in Community 5, Tema. Good morning.
Good to see you, Ben.
Your yellow is supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. I just wanted to do that. I wanted to see smiles on your faces. You were a bit too serious. Good to have you join the conversation this morning.
Good to see you too.
So let me start with you, Reverend Okran. It's another installment, 40 Days of Power, and of course, the Greater Works Conference in Mesh. Are they together?
They are. So the Greater Works Conference is the climax of 40 Days of Power, a season where, as Pastor Tebo rightly say, we separate ourselves from the daily grind of life to say, God is God. And so in a certain part of the year, we spend time fasting, praying, trusting God for not just his blessing, but his direction for the days and the weeks and the months ahead. And it's an annual activity of not just ICGC, but so many people have come around the idea of a 40-day time of fasting and prayer. So over the years, that period has climaxed with a conference called the Greater Works Conference. And the name is borrowed from John chapter 14 and the verse 12. If I may read it for you, Ben, it says that most assuredly I say to you, he who believes in me, the works that I do, he will do also, and greater works than these will he do, because I go to my Father. So it's a time trusting God for strength to do greater works in the days ahead. And that's what the conference is all about.
I'm sure it's, Reverend Kujasari, it's more like recharging your batteries. We would see that even Jesus himself, from time to time, he would retreat from the people and go and pray, recharge his spiritual batteries. For you, what do you reflect on every year when this period, arrives?
Greater Works Conference basically is the time when God speaks to us after we have waited on him for 40 days. God brings direction. The words that comes from the pulpit are strong and rich. It empowers and enables us to make strategic decisions in going forward. Over the years, we have been tremendously blessed by the speakers. The numbers had grown extremely large, and then lives had been impacted. I'm expecting something extraordinary this year because it happens to also be our 40th anniversary. 40 years is a generation. So
this one is 40 for 40.
40 for
40 days of power,
exactly.
marking your 40th.
40th anniversary. So I expect it to be a moment of thanksgiving in addition to the spiritual experiences that we are going to have.
In any case, if you choose to use 40 for 40, you have to give me credit.
What's your favorite subject?
But I just want you to share with us, over the years, what has it been like for those watching, not just those who attend ICGC, but for everyone watching? What have the previous years been like, and what do you expect this year's experience to be? He has already shared his. Reverend Okran, what are you expecting?
So, my personal highlight has always been the opening night communion service. Because over the years, it's just been that moment when we say, after 40 days, of fasting and praying, we come to formally bring the fast to an end. And so Pastor Tebo leads the communion service on coming Monday night. And that has been one of my high points because it's almost like a concentrated period where everything that has been building up comes to the head. But another feature of that night that is special is that on that night, he always brings a message for the continent of Africa. Beyond the number of people gathered there and the millions watching us online, the message for that night always speaks to the dreams, the hopes, and aspirations of a continent looking for God and looking for direction. And invariably, for everyone who is in the service that night, you get a sense of what God would have you do, not just as an individual, but as a family representing your business, your entity, the nation. And so that's a very pivotal moment for me. and it follows all the way through from Monday through till Friday.
And so it's starting this Monday, isn't it? Monday evening.
Monday the 29th, this very Monday night. So the Monday has no morning session, but it starts in the evening at 5 p.m. And then from Tuesday, we start with morning sessions, which tend to be seminar-like teaching sessions. And then the power services in the evenings, where the word is shared, there's music, there's theater arts, various expressions of ministry, and then God's word comes through very strongly. And it follows all the way through from Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then Friday night is the closing night and anointing service, another very special feature. We just saw a bit of it in the clip that was shown before, because that is when literally everyone is released to go and do greater works.
Yeah. I see. And this year, of course, I'm sure you're going to ramp up on what you did last year. It's going to get even more exciting.
You see your 40 by 40 principle.
I am in the spirit. But tell us about some of those known faces, prominent people who are coming. Every year you do this. We just saw Tudor Bismarck. Yeah. Was that from last year?
Yes, it was from last year.
Okay, so who are some of the personalities that you are bringing this time to walk you through? Reverend Amwasari.
Yes, so Dr. Tabel obviously will be speaking. Pastor Matthew Ashimolo will be speaking.
I see.
Bishop Tudor Bismarck and Bishop...
Tudor Bismarck will be back.
And Bishop Michael Konko, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. You have experienced these people and what has happened at 40 Days of Power. What can you say on the back of the past experiences and what we can expect this year?
I think that the beauty about greater works is that it's almost as if you have four hosts. Because, to borrow the words of Pastor Table, the speakers have come over and over and understood the conference, understood the space, understood the experience. And so, literally, this year is we call this year our God year. So the theme of ICGC for this year is God. But as a rule or principle in Greater Works, this theme is not given to the speakers. But when you listen to all four of them...
Well, you just let it out.
It's not a requirement for them to use that to speak. They know the theme because, of course, it's out there in the space.
Okay.
But it's almost as if they've gone for a rehearsal. Because one person speaks and the next person builds on and they build on. And even the speakers who were not in town at the time the conference began, when they come in, just literally take off from where it leaves off. So it's an accumulation of thought. And by the time it's over, you have a clear sense of what God wants to say at a time like this and for the year ahead. And that for me is the big feature of the speakers and the conference. And of course the music comes to ramp it up because music is so big at Greater Works. And one of the features of Greater Works music is the ICGC choirs, not just local church choirs, but district choirs, regional choirs, and then various genres of music. So there's a reggae choir, a high life choir, there's contemporary music, and then upbeat music. So these are all expressions of music. And then we bring on a few international guest artists, headlined this year by Nathaniel Bassey, who also comes quite a bit to Greater Works. So the music is good, the preaching is good, and then of course, the fellowship. You get to meet people from all over the world. People take time off, they take their leave just so they can experience the conference in full. They travel from different countries. And so you get to meet people and fellowship with people, and that is always very special.
I see. He just said the music is good, the preaching is good, and in my head, I was hoping he would add, and the feeding is good. Whenever Jesus fed the people with the word, after that, when he fed the thousands.
Just to assure you that there will be food vendors.
Oh, I know. You mentioned, but the communion and everything will also be in there, so that they are nourished both by the word and I'm sounding very Catholic now. You know, we have the liturgy of the word and the liturgy of the Holy Eucharist. But this is another experience. I want you to reach out to your fellowship, but it's also not restricted to ICGC members, right?
Not at all. Not at all.
So others can also, from other denominations, can also participate.
Everybody can come. Everybody. Greater Works is a time of refreshing, the time that everybody who attends gets nourished.
Okay.
And we expect the whole Accra to be at Greater Works. And Greater Works also has a global audience, so we expect people in other nations to connect. We will stream the service online as well on our portals, so we can reach out to the whole world.
All right. So let's talk about how people can get there. I know about the bus arrangements. I know the venue and everything. Both of you can walk us through. I'll start with you, Reverend Omar.
So I will talk about the venue. The venue is at Tishi, Christ Temple East. That is going to be the venue. This time around, we are bringing it to the arena. Okay. So all the evening services will be at the arena, and the morning service, which starts on Tuesday, will be in the auditorium. Pastor Albert will talk about the busing arrangement.
And the wonderful feature about Greater Works is the busing arrangements. Elaborate busing arrangements have been made to enable people from various parts of the city to converge at Christ Temple East at no cost to them. So please visit centralgospel.com and you will find the busing terminals displayed when it leaves, where it brings you back to, so you can join a bus from one place to the venue. And if you are going from the office to the venue and you're going home afterwards, another bus can take you home. So it's elaborate, and you can find which bus service suits your purpose and hop on a bus to get to Greater Works, or carpool with a friend coming. And that's another benefit of coming to the conference. So people can find the bus terminals on the platform. But let me add that, just to add to what Kojo said, if like me, you are looking at doing Greater Works in the year ahead, it's a very interesting time in the lives of people, everyone trusting God for themselves, for their families, for their businesses, for their ministries, for the year ahead to turn out well. I think that if you are like that, this will be a good place to converge with other believers as we all look up to God for direction and for strength to navigate the year ahead. And so, as Kojo mentioned, the preference is in-person participation, where I can see you, Ben, and we can talk and laugh and also worship God together. But if for any reason you are located too far away outside the city, outside the country, and therefore cannot be there in person, this will be streamed on Facebook, on YouTube, various online platforms at Main Sortable, at Central Gospel. And then also we are glad to announce that in our partnership with the Multimedia Group, it will be live on Joy Prime, so people can attend service online if they can't be there in person. But by all means, be at Greater Works from Monday the 29th of July, which is coming Monday, all the way through till Friday the 2nd of August at Christ Temple East, Teshi of the International Central Gospel Church. Benjamin?
Time?
The time is 5 p.m. till 9 p.m. in the evenings, and then 9 a.m. till 12 noon in the mornings.
Okay. Any final words? Anything maybe we've missed that you can mention? Anything else? You can also just reach out to people out there and let them know what they'd probably be missing if they don't come through.
So we want to invite every one of you to join this year's Greater Works.
So
this year,
Greater Works this way. That's your camera right there. Right.
Mm-hmm. So we want to invite every Tom, Dick, and Harry to be part of this year's Greater Works. Like I mentioned earlier on, beyond the experiences, the service, the message, the impartation, and the glory of Greater Works, this year also happens to be our 40th anniversary. So we are there, in addition to the experience, to say thank you to God and celebrate Him for His goodness, His faithfulness, and for His kindness. We expect you to be there, and your life will never be the same. Like we say, Greater Works is going to be bigger, better, and greater.
Okay, we tap into that. Bigger, better, greater.
And greater, yeah.
All right. Reverend Okran, you have the final word.
Thank you very much for having us to our friends here at the Multimedia Group, and for everyone who will be watching online and also on television, just to say God bless you, and may this year be that year that you have expected, especially as you join us at Greater Works next week, Monday, all the way through till Friday. God bless you, God keep you, and have a fruitful, blessed day. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Okay, so the sermon is over. We'll continue come Monday.
Yeah.
At what, 5:30 or 6?
5:30.
From 5 p.m. All right, so be there or be square, like we'd usually say. Those who joined us for this conversation, of course, we had Reverend Albert Okran, Senior Pastor, ICGC, the New Wine Temple in East Legon. We also had Reverend Kojo Amo Asari, Senior Pastor, ICGC, Zoe Temple in Community 5 in Tema. Now, when we come back, we're going to be considering the honorific lecture and award taking place today at the University of Professional Studies, Accra. But before we go, you know, they say cleanliness is next to godliness. If you're stressed out about all your cleaning needs, worry no more. Dan's World Services is your one-stop shop that meets all your commercial and residential cleaning needs, from pest control, janitorial and house cleaning services, event cleaning and waste management, carpet and sofa cleaning, and more. Whether you're at home or at work, we understand. We know how haptic cleaning can be coupled with your busy lifestyle. And we've got great news for you. Dan's World Environmental and Facility Management Service has got you covered. We excel in whatever we do, leaving you beyond your wildest expectations. Where can you find us? Excel House, opposite Regimanuel Estate, Nungua Barrier. You can also reach us on these numbers. Are you ready? 0302 905 538 or 0555 752 361. Dan's World Services, beyond expectation. We'll be right back to tell you about that honorific lecture and award, and of course, the Paramount Chief of Asante Asokore, Dr. Nana SKB Asante, will be the recipient for this year. That event later this evening, we'll be telling you about that when we return. Welcome back on the AM show. Under the distinguished patronage of Her Ladyship, Justice Gertrude Tokonu, Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana, the UPSA Law School proudly presents the 2024 Lifetime Achievement in Law Award and Honorific Lecture. The event presents a rare but high-level opportunity to recognize and acknowledge the outstanding and exemplary contributions of notable Ghanaian personalities in the areas of the rule of law, governance, and the legal academy. Well, this year's Lifetime Achievement in Law Award will be conferred on Nana Dr. SKB Asante. He is Paramount Chief, Asante Asokore. He is also former Director, United Nations Center on Transnational Corporations and Chairman of the Committee of Experts which drafted the 1992 Constitution of Ghana. All of this will be held at an august ceremony befitting the aura of the occasion. And of course, it's this evening at 5 p.m. at the Kofi Ohene Konedu Auditorium at the UPSA. You can visit the social media platforms of the UPSA Law School or call 0245 347 946 for more information. Well, joining us for a conversation on this all-important honorific lecture and award this evening, we have Thomas Kojo Kwanzaa. He's a lecturer at the UPSA Law School. We also have Ishak Ibrahim, lecturer at the UPSA Law School. Thomas, Ishak, good morning.
Good morning.
I know once you have Nana Dr. SKB Asante, it's going to be bombastic, if you like. But tell us a bit about this honorific lecture, this award. How long has it been running? And of course, today we are having another installment. Ishak, I'll start with you.
Yes, so as you rightly said, the maiden edition was actually introduced last year.
Right.
When we honored Dr. SKB, Dr. Dedba, a retired Supreme Court Justice. So it is the decision of the UPSA Law School to recognize highly distinguished Ghanaians in the field of law, especially those who has contributed to academia. And as I said, last year was instituted, and this year we've recognized this particular personality that has achieved so much, both academia, international civil service, as well as locally. He has achieved so much, and our objective is, as they said, a nation that does not honor its heroes is not worth dying for. So the UPSA has taken upon itself to recognize this kind of distinguished personalities.
In other words, you are giving honor where it's due.
That's right.
I see. Thomas, and for you, what has this meant, this honorific lecture and award from last year to this year? What has it meant for you?
Personally, it's been inspiring. It's been insightful, because some of these personalities have lived a life that is unbelievable, the things that they've been able to achieve within a lifetime. For instance, Nana Dr. SKB Asante, if you go through his achievements within a short period of, within the period of time which he has lived. He's been state attorney.
I'm surprised you're saying the short period because he's pretty. And I've heard talk about Nana Dr. SKB Asante since I was practically very little. I mean, we've heard of him throughout time, but I'm just yanking your chain.
But compared to his achievements, the period is short because at the pinnacle of some person's careers is what he has done. Someone aspires to work with the UN. He has done that. Another aspires to be a chief. He has done that. Another aspires to be a deputy attorney general, an acting attorney general. He has done that. So within 90 years or even less, he did all that. And it's quite remarkable, and it's exemplary and inspiring for some of us.
What does this do for academia, the legal field, recognizing these people, giving them the prominence they deserve?
Okay, yes. It's quite important, as I said, a nation that does not honor his heroes is not worth dying for. By honoring personality of this nature, it tells we young people in academia and people who are aspiring to join that if you give your very best like this personality, one day somebody will recognize you. And that is the very important reason why we are celebrating him, to honor his achievement and to encourage the young generation that the future is very bright, and we just have to look at a figure like this and give our very best towards our national development.
Thomas, in terms of your expectations of this evening, the Kofi Ohene Kunedu Auditorium is where this will be held at 5 p.m. People should be seated by what, 4:30 p.m. thereabouts.
Yeah.
But let's talk about what we can expect. We've had the first installment. This is going to be the second installment. What can we expect? Before we even talk about who is attending, what can we expect this evening?
It's a mixture. It's a mixture. We can expect a number of things. Because the person we are honoring is a chief, we'll have some traditional performances and cultural performances by the Sikadan troupe and some other groups. We'll also show a documentary detailing the life and accomplishments of the honoree. Also, of course...
That sounds interesting.
Yes, very, very. Of course, this event is going to be graced by some very important people in our country. The President of the Republic is going to be there himself, and he is going to address us. And of course, there will be a eulogistic lecture by the Chief Justice of the Republic, Her Ladyship Gertrude Tokonu, and also the Attorney General himself will also be there, and he will also give his remarks, all in honor of the honoree, Nana Dr. SKB Asante. And yeah, there will also be other surprises, which I would not mention here, but anyone who wants to see those surprises should come on board.
I see. Well, one that is not a surprise is that your dean will be there.
Oh yeah, the dean will be giving explanation as to why...
Kofi will be there as well.
Definitely. He'll be giving remarks as to why we are instituting this particular awards.
Okay, and your expectations would be?
Very, very high. As we said, though you said we should reserve the visiting list, there's high-level Ghanaians who will be attending.
Who else can participate in this lecture? People in the legal field? I mean, what is it? Is it strictly by invitation? And is it going to be streamed, for example, for those who may want to watch what is happening?
Yeah, it's going to be streamed for those who are watching. And the auditorium is massive. Members of the general public can come in. Okay. And as I said, apart
how many people
from the
can it seat? How many people can it seat?
Well over 2,000.
Well over 2,000.
Yes, yes. And I think that Ashanti Hine is part of the guest list as well. Okay. And various chiefs. Yes, it's part of the guest list. Various chiefs across the country would also be attending.
So this is a high-powered gathering that we can expect later this evening as we honor Nana Dr. SKB Asante.
That's right. Yes.
And are there any final words you'd like to share with us?
Yes. We would like to acknowledge our partners and our sponsors. This event is being held in partnership with the law firm Betsy Incho Lechai and Nkuma. And we also have a number of our sponsors, if I can run through them quickly. We want to acknowledge and thank GCB, Stanbic Bank, APSA,
Nationwide Medical Insurance, United Pension, GOIL. We also are supported by Twellium Industrial Company. And of course, our media partners. We are very grateful to Joy News, Business and Financial Times, Pan-African TV, and Channel 247.
Right. I don't know whether you mentioned Nationwide Medical Insurance,
Yes,
but I see them here as
Yeah.
well. And all of them coming together to ensure that this happens. Anything else you'd like to add, Ishak, before we go?
Well, we would really urge members of the public to tune into their TV as well as come in person. As you said, the auditorium have enough capacity so that we can make him feel he's really contributed so much for us. And then we'll be telling more. We don't want to oversell him here, because if you really want to know the man, come to the auditorium. You see his background, how he started, even legal education. We've not been able to mention that.
Right.
Yes, the University of Ghana Law School, he was one of the pioneers who started it.
Right.
And then his early contribution, most of the justices of the Supreme Court and the retired justices passed through his hands as a lecturer.
You know, when he launched his book, was it last year or thereabouts, I had the privilege of reading and interviewing him, so I'm very familiar with some of these. But
that's good.
Congratulations on the yeoman's work you're doing, celebrating those who deserve honor.
Thank
you. Tonight we'll be with you.
Thank you so much.
Right. So it's all about that honorific lecture and award. It takes place this evening at that auditorium. Let me get the name, Kofi Ohene Kunedu Auditorium at 5 p.m. at the UPSA. Those who joined us for this conversation, Thomas Kojo Kwanzaa, lecturer, UPSA Law School, and Ishak Ibrahim, lecturer, UPSA Law School. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming. And you, on the other end, stay with us. There's still a lot more action. We'll be right back on the AM Show.
Join us there, you experience the power of God like never before. Come with an expectation, because the Bible says that the expectation of the righteous will not be cut off. Come, your life will never be the same.
So it's a red carpet event, 10 songs on that album.
It starts at 4 p.m. The red carpet is 3 p.m.
I see. And who is invited? Anybody, everybody?
Everyone from the president to whoever, you are all welcome.
I see. Wow.
To the Paris Dome, including yourself. Yeah.
Indeed, I have a number of invitations to honor. But David, what would be your final words for us? For people who purchase this album, what can they expect?
There are wonderful tracks on this album. And in fact, the whole thing is geared towards the faithfulness of God. There are songs in there that will encourage you, that will strengthen you. You listening to me, you want to give up, you are going through things and you feel like throwing in the towel. There are songs there that will encourage you and to strengthen you to march on, because God is faithful. If He has done it before, He will do it again. He has never failed anyone and He can't fail you. So just lift your head high and know that God is with you. Your life will never be the same again.
Thank you so much for joining the conversation. It's like the words of Genesis, right? Is there anything impossible for God? Well, that's how we cap off this bit of the AM show. He's inviting you on the 28th day of this month, the Perez Dome, Reverend Evan David, and his album is titled El Emeth Worship Experience. You want to join him for that. Stay with us. We have one last conversation before we take leave of you. We'll be right back. We're going to be talking, investigating, interrogating that documentary on domestic violence. Of course, we don't want that. Joining me in the studio for a conversation, we have Cecilia Avoklia. She's a lecturer, University of Media Arts and Communication, and she's a PhD candidate, University of Ghana. And this is ahead of that premiere of The Loud silence. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining the conversation this morning, Cecilia.
It's glad to be here this morning.
What brought you to the point where you wanted to put together this documentary? Over the years, we've seen the statistics when it comes to domestic abuse and all of that. But why this documentary? Why now?
Okay. So as a PhD candidate, I won the scholarship. And the scholarship was focusing on the Sustainable Development Goal 5. That was gender equity and women's empowerment. So we're all supposed to work within that radius. And growing up, I have seen a lot of domestic violence cases that are very open, but then people don't talk about it. So when I decided to go into doing this documentary, the first thing I asked myself was, we have seen it, but people are not talking about it. And hence the title, The Loud Silence, because there's this silence about it that people don't talk about. And for the documentary, it's just to interrogate, why are people not talking about it? And so going ahead with the documentary, I found 3 things that were holding people from speaking. 1 was culturally, 2 was social, and 3 was religion. And so we'll talk about that.
So
more,
culture, society, and religion. Let's talk about it now. We have limited time.
Yes. So religion,
get into those 3 for me.
Yes. So religion, I spoke to the traditional priest, I spoke to a pastor, and I spoke to an imam. One of the problems is that most of our pastors in Ghana are pastors but are not trained marriage counselors. And so when
Yet they play the role anyway.
Exactly, perfectly. So when there are issues of domestic violence or abuse, they are not handled properly. Again, when you take the Bible, we always say God says he hates divorce. And so in the documentary, Apostle Kofi mentioned that God said he hates injustice, but he didn't say that if you are dying, you should stay in the marriage. And so it is, God hates divorce, but not in the sense that you are in it and you are dying. And then with the imam, he also mentioned that there are imams who are also not marriage counselors, but because of their roles as imams, they take on marriage issues and sometimes are not able to handle them well. And so, but again, in Islam, the marriage is in the hand of the man.
Right.
Yeah. So these are some of the issues that came up.
You know, it's interesting you've brought this up because on all fronts, I have heard, experienced, I have a friend who is Muslim and things happened. And like you said, the imams will tell you, oh, go back and all of that. Some of these are egregious, like serious.
Exactly.
A man who had done, I can't get into some of those things. Again, on the Christian front, it is saying, I am, you know, very Catholic, and of course we don't support this. But I say if you're going to die in there, that's not God's plan for your life. So, and on the traditional front, you know, some of the local practices, from Tokoshi to the rest, where some people would be bonded and they have to pay for the sins of others. So it makes a lot of sense. But what can we expect as far as this premiere? It's tomorrow, right?
Yes, it's tomorrow at 6 p.m. at Nafti Hostel, East Cantonment, close to the American Embassy. I think that I wanted to open a discourse where there's a discussion about the issue and see how we can get society to accept victims, where we are not being judgmental, that someone goes through an abuse and can't be open because the system is not supportive. Where you are being abused, and when you speak about it, everybody victimizes you again. And so I'm just looking for this opportunity for us to all have this discussion and see how we can support victims, how we can give voice to the victims, and how we can get the system to be working. Because yes, Ghana is working on paper. The Domestic Violence Act have been passed since 2007. The Criminal Code Acts have been passed, but on the grounds, what is happening? Can we have a discussion?
Well, we celebrate you for the good work you're doing, and we support you.
Thank you.
We wish you the very best on that front. So look forward to it tomorrow. Nafti Hostel, East Cantonments. Cecilia Avoklia. She's a lecturer at University of Media Arts and Communication and a PhD candidate at the University of Ghana. She's going to be premiering that documentary on domestic abuse, The Loud Silence. Well, that's how we cap off the AM show for this morning. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. It's been a pleasure coming into your homes, coming into your offices, wherever you have been watching me. Up next, Joy News Desk. Do stay.